care. All right, that was the Censorship Sucks Roundtable Radio Show. Coming up right now is Paranormal Intelligence Agency Radio with Jack Perry. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, good sir.
How are you doing tonight, Jack?
I'm doing good. How are you? Let's see if I can fix this. There we go.
Here we go. Hey, it's the camera.
Actually working. All right.
Yeah. Looking clean and clear, too. Oh, my goodness.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know, can I say the word bastard on the air?
Yeah, we can get away with it once or twice.
Okay. Well, it's part of a published essay, so.
Well, yeah, well, that's the name of it, so,
It's a published academic essay that I wrote called Natural Born Killer, and it uses the word bastard twice.
Yeah.
So it was published by the Metro State University of Denver, actually.
There you go. We got Roger and the Great Conspiracy restreaming us tonight. Welcome in, Soy Forte, Beth X, New York. And Cocaina. There we go. Thunderstrauss in the house. Hey, Roger, Great Conspiracy, give those folks shout-outs for me. I got some stuff I'm taking care of right now. Please. That's our mods and the folks who are restreaming us. In kick.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
So what do you guys? What do you got for us tonight, Jack? You was off last week. Hope everything is okay.
Yeah, God, yeah. I'm dealing with a very sick family member at the moment. So, but yeah, no, I've got some interesting stuff tonight. We're going to go through some recent paranormal in the news. We're going to do a little Sasquatch talk since it's Sasquatch season.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to read this academic essay because I'm feeling philosophical this evening, and that's going to lead us naturally into the ultimate rabbit hole of the mystery of death and ghost theory. And as part of the first part of the show, we're going to be talking about Ingo Swann's targeting of the moon and what the Artemis crew must have seen and aren't talking about. So.
Rumor has it tonight that Nancy is going to have Robert Morningstar in with her. And Robert is a remote viewer. And he's been doing a lot of stuff about that, about the Artemis, as well as, the science folks and the generals' disappearances. So we should be able to, hear some of that. If you can come in later on, or just hang out to listen, that's cool too, Jack.
Yeah, I actually might be able to this evening because the girls are out doing something. So.
Oh, they take the dogs too?
No, I've got the paranormal crime fighting duo right here with me.
Daisy and Sundance. What happened to the kitty cat and the other one?
They're upstairs. They just never join in. Ruby and River.
Ruby and River, yeah.
They're running surface security.
There you go. Got to keep those dogmen and the Mothman away. Don't want anybody coming down into the capsule where you're at right now.
That's right.
Well, Jack, you got 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Oh, been fighting a major headache today. Telling you.
Weather here has been off and on, and sinus issues off and on as
Yeah.
well, affecting sight
Right.
and ears. Here's your countdown, by the way.
Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you are live and on the radio side right now.
Welcome back, everybody, to Paranormal Intelligence Agency Radio Live. I'm your host, Jack Carey, and we are broadcasting from 300 feet deep in an abandoned nuclear missile silo somewhere lost in the post-apocalyptic wastelands of the Dakota Territories. And I am joined, as always, by the paranormal crime fighting duo Daisy and the Sundance Kid are in the house tonight. They are charging a $10 cover and a 2-drink minimum for those of you who want to see it live here in the silo. But it's been an interesting week. I've been kind of in a philosophical mood this week, and I thought maybe we should visit a few philosophical topics tonight. Going to read a published academic essay that I wrote called Natural Born Killer later in the show that I think many of you will find compelling in its points and arguments. And kind of to kick it off, we've got some interesting, recent paranormal in the news, and that is Bob Lazar's kind of making some waves out there with Jeremy Corbell coming out with new information. So you can check that out on Jeremy Corbell's Weaponized YouTube channel, which is always interesting. And apparently Corbell has a new film coming out called Sleeping Dog. And Sleeping Dog is going to be a very interesting film, really about the UFO phenomenon. So, interesting title, and it looks to be, if you watch the trailer, it looks to be an interesting film. He's a pretty good filmmaker, so we'll have to watch and see how that is going. The markets have been interesting this week, and we do some market talk on this show because of the paranormal aspects of the economy. You're not going to hear that kind of talk on any other radio show, I can guarantee you that. But it was the paranormal world that led us into the areas of cryptocurrency, debasement, fiat currency, debasement trade. And, really, if you take in totality of what the WebBot and the future forecasting group have been saying for a while, you could do a lot worse, in my opinion, and I'm no expert, but you could do a lot worse than if you were a young person and you had guts and a little bit of money. You could do worse than looking into the derivatives futures market on various commodities. I'll lay that out there. There's a lot of opportunity to be had in that area, and that kind of overlays into the crypto markets as well, because they offer futures contracts on cryptocurrencies now. So yeah, you could do a lot worse in my estimation. The fiat currency system is sort of in the death throes of its current existence. And, the argument can and has been made that the fiat currency system in and of itself was designed in order to eventually not be there anymore. It's a debt-based system, and it does so in such a way that over time that debt becomes unpayable in various, in any way. So, we're currently somewhere around 30 trillion in debt, something like that. It would take an insane amount of GDP growth in order for us to ever have a tax base big enough to begin to pay that down. So that leads to inevitable conclusions on an economic scale worldwide. And as I talked about in my last broadcast, I was discussing the fact that it currently doesn't look like the sort of revolution, I guess that's the best word for it, the revolution, economic revolution that a lot of like hardcore crypto people have been hoping for, probably isn't going to happen in that fashion. And the reason is because the powers that be, like companies like BlackRock, were smart enough to realize when they've been had. Right? That's really what it comes down to. They got us. They realized, hey, they got us. And they began to convert everything over to tokenization in such a way that they will still maintain control over a new tokenized system. That's just the way it is. Revolutions are rarely clean, right? Revolutions in history are always a odd mixture of the old and the new. And sometimes that manifests in really horrific kind of ways, right? So in some ways, tokenization is going to provide more of an equal playing field, but it's also not impossible to manipulate. Let's put it that way. And these dudes are master manipulators. That's just the way it is. When they control all of the liquidity, which is what is actually required in the system in order to make the current economic worldwide system work, it all comes down to how much liquidity is being pumped into the system, because that's what makes it all flow. When that liquidity gets cut off, then you see a massive downturn in risk on trade, which is cryptocurrencies and the like. And that's what we saw. Just about numerous times. That was the greatest deleveraging event in human history. So yeah, it's something to note, right? And the crypto market hasn't been the same since. It has never quite recovered, although it's starting to get its legs underneath it at this stage. There are there's some very interesting news on the cryptocurrency XRP. Apparently has got a lot of utility. That utility is going to apparently make it quite valuable over a very short period of time. And they're offering futures contracts on XRP right now that allow you to control up to 50,000 XRP at a time with a minimal underlying capital. That kind of opportunity doesn't really present itself all too often in life. Risk, gamble, you better believe it is. Yep, that's exactly what it is. You are rolling the dice, but the dice might be loaded on this one. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting summer. The summer is going to be extremely interesting in both the cryptocurrency and commodities markets. The war in Iran will probably become a blip on the screen, although it looks like they're still playing games, and who knows who's really in control, and etc. It goes on and on. Like, that's ad nauseum right now in the mainstream media, but no, it was the paranormal aspects of the WWOW, its predictions, cyber prophecies of the economic change taking place, the demise of the fiat currency system, and the adoption of tokenization that led us into covering that aspect of humanity on this show. So that's all that fits together. And it's been an interesting ride thus far. I still think we're in the very, very early stages of tokenization and cryptocurrency. It's like less than like 1% of the US population even owns any cryptocurrency. That's crazy. That's just crazy to me. But that's the way it is. And so that will lead to a very steep adoption curve. And the longer it takes for them to start the adoption curve, the steeper it will be in a shorter period of time. That's really the way that works. And so you could see exponential type moves out of cryptocurrencies like XRP. You're talking about, what did Bitcoin went up 69 million% since it was created. So yeah, there's room. There's room for movement with these things, like crazy kind of movement, right? And Eric Trump is out there making some statements about XRP that were very interesting today. I would check those out if I were you. That is a good place to look. Paranormal in the news, the good general and a number of other missing scientists still have not been found. These are all people that were connected to one another through a series of government contracts to back engineer alien technology. That's really what it comes down to. The General McCaslin was the guy in charge of Wright-Patterson Airfield. The Wright-Patterson Air Base is where they kept the bodies and the debris from Roswell in vaults underneath Hangar 23, not Hangar 18 as is commonly quoted. It's actually Hangar 23, and Hangar 23, the number 23 is very important to all of this, but that's actually a subject for another show. The mystery of the number 23 is a show in and of itself. It's interesting to me that they made the Hangar 23, that they put the bodies in the craft under. So the good general up and vanishes a few months after a rocket scientist, female, he was connected to, also vanished under the same exact circumstances. Few items were missing, indicating that they may have gone hiking, and that's it. That's the only clue. Nothing else. So, and there's like 5 or 6 of these people now that are missing, that are all scientists or military personnel that must have been connected to the legacy UFO program in some way. This has led me to the speculation that it is X-Protect that is probably at the behind all of this. X-Protect is what ufologists refer to as the embedded intelligence agents / assassins that are employed by the aerospace industry subcontractors who run the SAP or special access programs that actually back engineer alien technology. Those guys are running security for these companies that have subcontractors. It's all extremely compartmentalized, and in some way, shape, or form, they have a license to literally take people out that are a threat to the ultimate disclosure of what it is we possess. And what we possess, apparently, if you listen to the likes of Representative Anna Paulina Luna, and a few others, is that we apparently are in possession of a craft that didn't even originate in this dimension. Think about that. It's a craft that didn't even come from our reality. How do you disclose that without causing all kinds of ontological shock? You really can't. And so there's basically two camps. One camp is saying that humanity can survive ontological shock. And what is ontological shock? Well, that's kind of what the Maya faced when they abandoned their cities, right? It's what numerous civilizations have faced throughout the history of the world. And that's the point when your belief system fails. And so everything built up on top of that belief system, including your society, also fails. The patient can die. And in this case, the patient is human society itself. So you have one camp who's scared to death of that occurring, and at the same time, we're trying to protect proprietary breakthroughs using alien technology and trying to patent that in such a way that they can profit from it. They employ ex-military special ops guys and gals who run these actual security programs, and a lot of people refer to them as the Mirage Men. That's more of a kind of an indication of Air Force intelligence, but a lot of these people came from Air Force intelligence. Right? They get out of the military, they still have their security clearance, they get employed by a special access program subcontractor, not the government itself, not even Lockheed Martin. It's a subcontractor of Lockheed Martin. And that subcontractor is completely anonymous and unknown because of security reasons. They then can employ these people who are skilled killers, and who, it can be argued, have over time taken out quite a few different ufologists and investigators into this technology. And then you have the other camp who's saying, no, humanity can survive the ontological shock. We need to be upfront. We need to lay it all out there and let the chips fall where they may. That's really where the two camps are. They're embedded in the Pentagon. They're fighting tooth and nail, one against the other, trying to determine the outcome of this whole conspiratorial thing that has occurred. So, we live in the strangest of worlds. So we are on the upswing of the Kali Yuga. That is a multi-thousand-year planetary cycle, and it really is an interesting thing because if you're on the surface of the Earth every so many thousands of years, the trajectory of the Earth actually pops up out of a debris field that's blocking us from galactic center. And we can get bombarded by rays from galactic center. And this is a natural evolutionary process. We are handicapped on this planet because a lot of the time we spend being blocked from the galactic center and from these life-giving, life-evolving energies that normally would be bombarding us and that normally bombard planets that have life on them. This is a natural mechanism within the universe. It's how things are supposed to work, but we're on a kind of an imperfect spot. And every time that you go down the Kali Yuga cycle, you go through dark ages, and then when you come back up out of it and you get bombarded by the rays from galactic center that interact with our sun and thereby interact with our planet, harmonically speaking, then you get golden ages that occur and civilizations like Atlantis. And we are on the upswing now. It is a turbulent time, but we are right on the cusp of what the Webbot referred to as sci-fi world emerges. And when sci-fi world emerges, the economy completely changes at that stage. And it becomes a completely tokenized economy, and the way we think about economics will change completely. So it's going to be a very interesting time to be alive. And, from a paranormal investigation perspective, it's fascinating to watch how the paranormal, through various channels, in this case the webbot and remote viewing groups around the world, has led us into a sort of cascading event of economic change. How strange. What a strange world we live in. But that is the world we live in, right? So, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention Sasquatch. Right now is Sasquatch season. And by that, I mean this is the time of year when campers begin to go out and start camping. And in particular, people start to go out and pick wild berries in various forested areas. That is a very unwise decision, in my estimation. And I have a lot of data to back that up. There is, according to David Paulides of Missing 411 fame, a cluster of cases that all center around people who were picking wild berries. This, of course, leads us into the inescapable suspicion that they were somehow done in by a Sasquatch because of the competition for the food source, right? So, and that's where Paulides has kind of led the trail time and again, although he's, scared to actually come right out and say, yeah, I think Sasquatch is the culprit. If you take all the Missing 411 cases and you lay them on a map, and that is published and out there on the internet at CanAmMissingProject.com. And you overlay that with a map of all of the most credible 10,000 or so Bigfoot sighting reports. They are a spot-on match. And then you lay those two maps on top of each other and a third map of the cave systems known and documented on top of those, and they're a spot-on match. Those three things couldn't be a spot-on match unless there was a causal connection between them. That's just the way it is. So it's very, very interesting stuff. There is, some indication in the Missing 411 cases of what I call an interdimensional predator actually taking people. That is a scary, scary scenario, but I believe that some footage of one of these things has been captured, and that footage can be seen on my YouTube channel. It's just under Jack Carey, Cary, and if you look at the video titled Invisible Predators, you're going to see footage taken by a man named Bob Garrett, subsequently disappeared. That's a story in and of itself. But he captured some footage of what appears to be a very predator-like being, and by that I mean Predator from the movies. Like, this was a cloaked, not Bigfoot, whatever this thing was. It was shimmering just like the creature in the Predator movies, and you can see it clearly on film. I have it looped on there, and a couple of other examples taken from other researchers out there in the field. And when you put them all together, there are indications that we're dealing with something that is a truly unknown, unseen predator in the wilds of North America. And probably it's not Sasquatch. So that leads us to a very interesting place, a little testimony coming out of the wife of one of the best ufologists. He was actually a scientist, Bruce Maccabee, and his wife had an encounter with one of these predator beings, and we'll cover that right after our break.
All right. Good job, Jack.
Thank you.
Yep. I've been watching a lot of Jeff Nadolny stuff here lately. It's pretty interesting. And then what's the other one? Oh, Red Owl.
Red Owl?
Yeah, Red Owl is the name of the YouTube channel.
Huh.
And it's pretty interesting. They talk about stuff that's in caves, like giant man-eating worms,
Wow.
to like these shadow figures.
Like the Jinn.
Kinda, yeah. Some of the stuff that they were going over and talking about, it sounded like Jinn, but it really group. These are in groups in certain areas of certain national parks.
Wow.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah. But Jeff usually talks about stuff like Dogman and Bigfoot. He's had some
Nice.
really, really weird stuff coming up in here.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, he's interviewed like a hunter, like a government contractor he had on with him, that hunts Dogman. So I don't know all about that, but hey, it wouldn't surprise me if some of them are tagged, and the guy said that, oh yeah, they used them in like Africa. I'm like, okay.
Jeez.
That's
he had crazy.
Like 3 or 4 of them, part of his unit that went into some Africa thing that I guess it recently. But it's weird stuff, man.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
this is going to get very, very philosophical very fast here in a little bit. So,
cool.
Prepare thyself. We're going to drop a philosophy bomb.
Have you heard?
It's a careful.
Have you had any wing cryptid sightings sent to you lately?
Not so far this season. I haven't had anything. Although I do. This is such a sparsely populated state. I mean, Denver and its suburbs had more people than this entire state.
Yeah.
That just is crazy to me, but and this is a big state, so and there's all kinds of paranormal stuff happening here, but there's 830,000 people, so
Well, it seems to be about this time of year is when I've had my sightings of pterosaur type creatures.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked.
That's my dream, is to get a good sighting of a real pterosaur. I would love that. Boy, that would be something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I saw a pair once, and then one really low. I told you all about that one. It was.
Yeah. That is some crazy stuff.
30 seconds, and we're back on radio side. Yeah, and every time I go through that area, I always get the feeling that a Bigfoot or a dog man's gonna cross the road there too one day. I'm coming through. I'm like, I don't know why, but I always got it. It just has weird feeling in that area. Here's your countdown, Jack. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're back.
We're talking about the predator beings that apparently are in our forest. You can see that footage on my YouTube channel, as I mentioned. Dr. Bruce Maccabee's wife had a run-in with one of these creatures, and she got a snapshot of the run-in. and he was able to filter it in such a way that he could ascertain that this thing was using some kind of light reflective technology in order to do what it was doing, to make itself invisible. The only thing they got was like this crazy arm. Like you can totally see the arm of this thing, whatever it is. So that happened on their property. It happened while she was deer hunting up in her deer stand on their own acre property that butts up to a forest. I guess my question is, what are the odds that the wife of a prominent ufologist has a run-in with one of these predator creatures on their very own property, and it not be related in some way, shape, or form to Dr. Bruce Maccabee's work on ufology? How is that possible? That defies the laws of probability in my estimation, and so I think there must be some weird causal connection between the two. This is the strange world that I live in. So take a look at that and see what you guys think. So this week's been a philosophical week. It's been a week where I was reminded of the mystery of death, and it is the ultimate rabbit hole, right? I mean, when you think about rabbit holes, the mystery of death is the ultimate mystery. It doesn't appear as though death is the end of existence, only in this particular form, perhaps. So very, very interesting. But I thought this would be a opportune moment to read an academic essay that has a philosophical view that you might find compelling. And I wrote this when I was at the Metro State University of Denver. It was published by them and actually entered into a competition. So a few years ago, this is Natural Born Killer, by the way, by Jack Carey. A few years ago, I went through something of a spiritual, if not religious, conversion. This wasn't the typical case of a wandering soul finding a belief system that provided support and comfort. Rather, it was a horrific experience. The weirdest part of this enlightenment is the fact that it was all facilitated by a nature documentary. I had, for a while, been contemplating the larger picture of the universe and my place within it. In fact, this contemplation had really become all-consuming, and most of my time was spent poring over dusty old tomes of arcane knowledge, looking for something I couldn't quite define. I had recently become overwhelmingly disillusioned with the established religions of our day. They all, without exclusion, seem rife with hypocrisy and corruption, hollowed out versions of what they were meant to be. In my mind, they now only exist to parasitically survive off the fears and hopes of the people who make up my species. It all seems like simple physics, really. A body in motion tends to stay in motion, and those belief systems have been in motion for a very long time. They now barrel down the tracks in such a fashion that I am often left wondering what mad engineer must be at the helm. One afternoon during this turbulent period, I was lazily seated in front of the television, and suddenly a nature documentary began. I reached for the remote control, but before I could change the channel, these guys got their hook into me with a fantastic title. The name of the documentary was The Silent Killers of Monterey Bay. The subject of the piece was a pod of killer whales that were currently living in Monterey Bay outside San Francisco. The film starts with the narrator explaining that the pod is hunting and that they intend to capture this event on film and otherwise document the activity of the whales. The camera pans in on a lone seal that has become the object of the hunt. The seal spots the pod and knows that real trouble has just taken a liking to him. In a completely unexpected move, the seal swims directly over to the boat, holding the film crew. The boat crew is understandably surprised and a little shocked by this. The pod of killer whales, too scared of the people and the boat, keep their distance, and the seal appears safe. He was a crafty bastard, that seal. At this moment, the narrator comes back on camera and says that in moments like these, they don't like to interfere with the workings of Mother Nature. Quote, "We're required to have a hands-off approach," he said into the lens. Just about then, the engine of the boat started up and began to gurgle and hum. The boat slowly jolted forward and then began to pick up speed. The seal, crafty little guy that he was, knew that if the boat left, he was going to be dead meat. The killer whales began to pull out their toothpicks. The seal, desperate and afraid, began to pursue the boat with all of its might and was doing a really fine job, I might add. The boat crew realized what was happening. They began to pick up more speed in an attempt to leave the seal behind. The seal, overwhelmed with fright, began to jump out of the water and into the boat. Every time it jumped out of the water, it let out a blood-curdling scream. I was caught mesmerized by what I was witnessing. Finally, the boat began to leave the poor seal behind. Farther and farther away it fell as exhaustion took over. Those whales didn't take long. I soon discovered just how aptly named they are. They must have hit that seal going full steam, ripping its flesh and crushing its neck bone into 1,000 tiny pieces. When these guys kill something, they aren't content to just eat it. They make a game of it, tossing the poor creature to and fro like a beach ball at a rock concert. Just about the time that my horror turned into anger and I began to wish ill upon the boat crew, narrator, producer, and the rest of their ilk, a voice came on the screen. It was the voice of the narrator, and he says, "Now I know that this must seem like what this must seem like, and although all of you out there watching might be angered and repulsed by what just happened, there is something you don't know. That pod of whales had a baby with it, and it hadn't eaten in over 2 weeks. In fact, it was starving to death. The death of the seal, although savage to our way of thinking, means life for that baby whale." Just at this instant, a life-changing thing happened. I saw a flash of light like a bomb go off in my mind. I felt like I was being hit with a lightning bolt. I must have blacked out because I woke up on the floor. Only a few moments had passed, but my head was swimming. I gathered myself together and went outside with my dogs for a couple of hours to clear my head. That night before bed, I was irresistibly drawn again to the same nature channel. It was like I had been given a dose of truth serum, and now I had a heroin-like grip on my soul. That night's feature documentary was on Japanese hornets. As far as bugs go, the Japanese hornet is just about as nasty as they come. They can spray acid from their tails and sense the carbon dioxide put out by a prey's breath or eye heat. Many a person has been blinded by these creatures. Once they have you blinded in the jungle, they emit an odor that draws the rest of the hive to you. Only a few stings render enough poison to completely down a victim. The pain apparently more than most humans can bear. The film crew had to wear tough suits covering their entire bodies in order to shoot the documentary. These hornets make their living by attacking honeybee colonies. The documentary crew was able to film only 30 Japanese hornets, killing Every one of 30,000 honeybees in a single colony in a single attack. It was death wholesale. These things were lopping off heads with their pincers and spraying acid all over those bees, melting 100 at a time. When the killing was done, they took all of the bees' larvae, flew it back to their own nest, and fed it to their young. As I lay in bed watching this, my skin crawled. I felt like I stood on the precipice of a great ravine and was about to be shoved in. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I left the television off. I went into the room where I store all of my books looking for a diversion from the question in my mind standing just off stage. I picked up a book I had found at a used bookshop by a man named Aleister Crowley. I didn't know much about the man other than most of the world's religions considered him to be the wickedest man who ever lived. With a title like that coming from them, I knew whatever he had to say must be good. I randomly flipped through the book, stopping on a section where Crowley supposedly had channeled the Egyptian goddess Nuit. She was the Egyptians' idea and embodiment of the totality of the universe. In this channeled writing, the goddess Nuit is supposedly speaking through Crowley and says, "I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union." My mind went tumbling again. That was the question, really, that had been lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce. If love exists, and it does, how can it exist in a place of such brutality? How can it exist if all of nature is a slaughterhouse? After the two films I had watched, it became abundantly clear that in order to perpetuate your own consciousness stream, or life, you have to be adept at freeing up other life forms from theirs. We are, all of us, vampires. Consider it a zero-sum gain. Whatever life you have or enjoy was put there by another life form that no longer exists because of it. A transaction took place at that moment. You absorbed its energy. Predator and prey became one. Is that what Nuit meant? Vegetarians may think they have a pass on such brutality, but they are only ignorant of the facts. Recently, a prestigious university conducted a series of experiments on plants. In one experiment, they put a new plant in a container and stuck a match next to it and lit the match. The fire from the match, of course, damaged the plant. They then took an identical plant and placed it next to the first and placed an unlit match next to it. The second plant grew at a 90-degree angle away from the unlit match. This means, of course, that the plants are conscious, and not only that, they appear to communicate. Research is ongoing, but vegetarians may be the biggest killers of all. All of this was leading me to an inescapable conclusion. If love can exist alongside brutality, then it must surely all be one creature, feeding, fighting, and loving itself in an endless exploration of self-love. It is only human perception which is terminally flawed, inexplicably unable to accept this purest of truths. Nuit's or Crowley's words rang in my head. I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union. Had God split itself up into countless life forms in order to create the principle of love through union? Wasn't the predator and prey scenario of our existence just another form of union? I had to get out. I needed air. I decided to go to the grocery store and pick up a few items that we needed for that night's dinner. Just at the stoplight, a block or two from my home, I began to hear sirens. They were faint at first, and then slowly they got louder and louder until they were blazing in my ears. I saw a black car going at least 80 miles an hour being pursued by a police car. They were going so fast it all seemed a blur and were gone in just a few seconds. the siren slowly fading again. I wondered if the drivers knew that they were the same creature, and so in effect one chasing the other was like a dog chasing its tail. I don't even remember the rest of the drive to the store. Once there, I took a handcart and wandered my way over to the meat department. There before me in homogenized glory were the hunks of animal flesh wrapped in plastic that I had come to depend on for my existence. I loaded up what I needed and headed for the door. Standing in line, Nuit's words hit me again. This time I even heard it in a female voice inside my head. I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union. Her words rang through me as she spoke. I couldn't go through with it. For some unknown reason, I couldn't buy the meat. The deal seemed too shady. I was getting off too easy. I placed the basket on the ground in front of me and turned to walk out. The others in line only stared in a sheepish manner as I walked out the door. That night, as I drifted off to sleep, a childhood memory long forgotten crept back into my mind. At the age of 7, I begged, pleaded, and cajoled my parents enough that they finally purchased me the BB gun I so desperately desired. It was a hot summer day when I took it out of the box. I filled it with BB pellets and began shooting the target it came with. After a few hours of that, I grew bored and I began looking for other targets. I spotted a blue jay on a telephone wire and coldly took aim. I don't remember pulling the trigger, but I remember how hard it hit the ground. My mother, who had been sunbathing at the time, looked up from her book just as it happened and began screaming at me. We both ran over to the bird. Blood was pouring from its beak, and a hole now resided where an eye had once been. A wave of anguish swept over me. I began to weep uncontrollably. My mother began to cry too, not saying a word. I can still hear my father's voice from across the yard, calling us from within some long, dark tunnel. You guys quit messing around and come and get your cheeseburgers. The end. And that kind of leads us into the mystery of death itself, right? Because life is sort of predatory. And what is death itself? Is it just a phase transition into another dimension? It's possible. It leads us into ghost theory, right? And an anomaly I noticed. First of all, I grew up in a haunted antebellum mansion in southern Oklahoma. It was haunted as could be. There were full-on black, figures moving across the house, dishes being smashed in the middle of the night, the whole thing. So my whole childhood was full of that. And so ghosts, as for me as a paranormal investigator, were never a mystery. I knew they existed. The real question is, why do they exist? Do we live in a reality where there is just some kind of moth trap mechanism by which some people get stuck in a semi-existent way in this reality, and we call them ghosts? Or is there something else at work there? Because the anomaly when it comes to ghost theory is called the caveman ghost anomaly, right? When was the last time that you saw somebody on a paranormal documentary, television show, paranormal caught on camera, what have you, of a caveman ghost? They're just not there. Are we to believe that ghosts didn't occur in the ancient past? and that somehow it's a modern day occurrence? Do ghosts just fade over time and eventually make that transition? These are all open questions I don't pretend to have the answers to. But it's clear from a mountain of evidence that some people not only survive death, but can interact with this reality in that other state. We call them ghosts, what have you. They're just people. Or should we say former people? I don't know. You know, what is the etiquette? What is ghost etiquette? I'm going to write a book called Ghost Etiquette. And, you know, that really kind of leads us back around to this whole idea of alien technology. And I say that because a lot of the scientists who are involved with the UFO program claim that there's something spiritual that we would describe as spiritual. But what is that really? Is that just another dimensional move of some kind? I don't know. But like my essay says, a brutality can exist alongside the principle of love in this universe, and it does. Is it our human perception which is flawed and not creation itself? Could it be that we just simply aren't seeing the fact that death is just a simple transition and nothing to be feared, and so the predator and prey scenario of our existence really isn't all of that dramatic that it seems to us to be? I don't know the answer to that either. But these are good questions to ask ourselves. And, you know, in the world of ghost research and paranormal research, it's important to know that over time, technology will gain ground with this mystery. Technology has a way of gaining ground with all mysteries over time. And this is no different. So, you know, we are on the cusp of artificial intelligence actually changing medicine as we understand it. A lot of scientists are claiming that they are on the cusp of curing cancer, etc., extending life to at least 120 healthy years, that kind of a thing. So you are seeing the sort of marriage of high technology with human lifespan and existence in a way that's going to sort of, you know, really revolutionize the future of humanity if it's not interrupted unexpectedly in some way. And could it be that there is something we're not quite understanding about the UFO phenomenon beyond this aspect of an actual technology being in our possession from another dimension? Could it be that because death is another dimension, that there is somehow a connection between these things? I don't know. But a lot of researchers are beginning to ask those questions because of this little thing that was discovered called the hitchhiker effect. And the hitchhiker effect is the fact that people involved with ufology for long periods of time end up experiencing other kinds of paranormal activity that really logically shouldn't have a relationship to UFO mystery. I'm talking about, like, you know, people involved with the UFO program going home and experiencing poltergeist activity and haunting activity and light orbs following them and cryptid animal activity even. I mean, that kind of stuff, how is it connected to their research into alien technology if there's not something weirdly interdimensional about it. And, you know, all of that plays into the battle that's taking place for disclosure. And you guys will have to join me next week. We will jump down another rabbit hole and we will explore the architecture of it. And until then, I will see you on the radio.
Great job, Jack. Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah, just hold with me and
Sure.
so I can get clear of TMV Cafe, and
Cool.
I'll get Nancy going.
The lovely Nancy Planeta.
Yeah, she'll be happy to see you if you do stop in.
Yep, I miss Nancy. I haven't talked to her in a while. It's been so freaking crazy busy, but try to say hi tonight.
Yep. Just cleared from TMV Cafe, so hold on here and let me get Nancy Nance up.
Cool.
I think we should put this one in our top shows. It was a really,
nice.
really
Great.
good, really good show.
Awesome.
I love that
Thanks.
that little reading you did. That's awesome.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna get Nancy going. You take care. I'll see you over on the other side if you're coming over. If not, well, I'll catch you next time then. All right.
Yeah, well, I'm going to log on either way. I'll be listening and try to interact a little bit here, so.
Sounds good. All right.
All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
The diagram of all those people dying and missing and stuff. Yeah, which is cool.
Hi, Jack. Welcome back.
Hello. I just want to say hello to everybody. I'll try to interact some. I've got to run upstairs and check what's going on up there, but I
Yeah.
hope everybody's doing good. Hi, Roger. Hi, David. Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Jack. How's it going?
It's going good.
Good.
There's-
Good.
There's
Hey,
the
Mark.
famous Mark Edworthy.
Mark Edworthy. He's
Yeah.
back. And Roger's back. Yeah.
You're muted. You're muted, Mark.
Done. That should be okay.
There we go. Nancy's muted too for some reason.
So is
She must be
Roger.
like trying to get a hold of.
Vicky's
Now I'm not.
muted.
There you go.
I'm just trying to get things organized and switched over.
Hi, Vicky. How you doing?
I'm good. I heard you on the airways earlier. Sounded like a
Ooh.
good show.
Thank you. Yes, Jack always does great shows, just like Nancy and John earlier.
Wow.
It's been a
Thank
great
you,
night
sir.
so far. Thank you, everybody.
Nah, it's
Hey,
been a
Jack.
pleasure.
I was trying
Hi,
to
how
say
you
hey, Jack,
doing, Vicky?
earlier, but
Let me try to get
it's Nancy.
let me try
It's
to get
nice-
Mr.
nice to-
Morningstar back in here.
Yeah, it's nice to hear from you, Vicky. So,
Yeah. Yes, I enjoyed what you were talking about earlier. It was good.
oh, cool.
It's nice to see
Excellent.
everybody. I've been gone for a while.
Can you
Yeah,
guys hear me at all?
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
hear you.
I
Yep.
can.
Okay, good. This stupid thing. Hi, Vicky. Welcome back, my sweetheart. Hey,
Yeah,
Jack.
thank-
Missed you. God, Jack.
Hey,
Been a
Nancy.
minute.
How are you? It's good to see you.
Good.
He's all
So you got
set
about
up.
talk about
30
our
seconds,
missing-
Nancy, and we'll be on the air. Hopefully, we can get
Copy that.
Robert in here soon.
I got to run and let my dogs out, but I'll be back. So,
Roger that. Be careful. Don't trip on the dogs. No
Yes.
accidents, Jack.
Yes.
Jack,
Yeah.
be nimble. Jack, be quick. Jack, don't even touch the candlestick.
Look out, cats, dogs, and kids. Here's your countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you are live and on the radio side right now.
And welcome to the wild and woolly world of the Vixen's Vault. Today's date is April the 15th, 2026. The time, I believe, is, 9:01 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'd like to welcome everybody to the show. And yeah, I'm adjusting to that sun starting to set earlier again. And how do I know this? How am I so aware of the sun? Because I have chickens that do not go by any other clock but the sun. And it's funny because as soon as that thing is down at the horizon, it's not even fully set yet. They are in their house, and they're all talking because they want the door closed. Come shut the door. We need privacy. Close the door. So yeah, yeah. But it's getting earlier and earlier, and I keep thinking to myself, we're at that time of year again. We're about to go into the summer solstice. We're not that far off of it. But it's just, I don't know why it seems to be moving faster this year than normal. And I don't know if it's me that's the only one noticing that, but I noticed the intensity of the sun is stronger, and it's been getting that way yearly. And I don't attribute that to global warming, folks, at all. But I noticed and you have to understand, Florida sun's already more intense than everybody else's sun to begin with. But it's I can't even begin to describe it to you. You go outside and it's it feels almost like radiation on you. It's that intense. And I have lived down here since 1976. So I can tell you that, yeah, I've noticed different, some years it's not as bad as others, but this year it's really bad. And I keep thinking, I wonder if it's got to do with the coronal holes that keep, forming and twisting. Like right now we have a massive one that's earth facing. And when that happens, the radiation streams do increase in a big way. But, again, I think to myself, but we've got all these volcanoes going off at the same time. You know what? It's like I'm battling myself in my head because I'm looking at the meteorological reasons this could be happening. And I'm like, well, I don't think it's this. I would love to say it's the sun because, again, the sun has been very, ridiculously active. But can I really trust that? Because can I trust the sources? I don't know. Because again, they seem to have made these really dynamic discoveries, and I always laugh and go back to the replacement for the Hubble telescope that was launched and sent us back a picture that looked exactly like a marble countertop. No joke. I mean, I have seen marble countertops that looked identical to that picture. So I'm having trust issues. I've always had trust issues with anything that related to NASA in any way because they're a gigantic money pit.
Amen.
I mean, literally, they're like the black budget laundering of the country. I mean, and I always say that too. It's yeah, you really think that? Do you really believe that they're not laundering a lot of money in NASA? Yeah, they are. They have been for a long time.
Laundering or bureaucracy?
Laundering.
Yeah.
No, it's laundering, dude. It's laundering.
Even
with the bureaucracy.
Because I know how, especially I can see as they are partially public servant, I can sort of see how too many cooks sort of issue.
Even with bureaucracy. Somebody's got their speakers on. I'm getting feedback. There we go. That's done. Okay, even with bureaucracy, you have to explain certain things. With NASA, like I said, NSAID, I mean, there are so many things that have been laundered through NASA, it's not even funny because they can't account for different things. It's like the Pentagon. It goes in the door and then you never hear about it again. And they always claim national security as reasons why you cannot know how trillions of dollars disappear. And, it's kind of funny because I'm like, all right, so national security, but we're talking trillions of dollars, and you literally are telling us that our military is needing to be re-enhanced because remember they shut all those bases down, they had to cut corners and everything else. Well, where are the trillions of dollars? I'd love to know. And don't tell me again, the DoD contracts are a joke. And we always laugh over here and we talk about the $600 toothbrushes and things like that, things we know are absolute lies in the budget lines, and yet they still play us for fools. I mean, at least now I have a feeling we've got a real reckoning coming, and I think Trump is getting less and less cryptic with what he's saying. He's being pretty direct at this point that there is a reset coming. He's making his alliances with China and actually Russia pretty obvious now. And it's funny because I posted something this morning about, the conversations that he was having with China and how China has accepted this deal. And somebody who's been a naysayer for a very long time had posted, it's almost like he had this alliance with China already in place. Well, yeah, you dumbass. The alliance with China has been in place since his first administration. Also with Russia and also with Saudi. I mean, I can name off the countries he aligned himself with in that first administration, and they made it really clear that this was like a brotherhood alliance. They didn't really, they didn't hide under blankets and do the whole super secret squirrel eye spy thing. No, they did these major celebrations with unheard of honors given to Donald Trump by these countries. That's okay. That's not a whole, let me rub elbows with you and then screw you the next day. No, that is a long-term relationship that's been set up.
A big point.
And then you see.
Go
ahead.
Big point you've got to consider is these are big players on the world stage.
Oh yeah.
You've got to at least publicly communicate with them, if not behind the sort of closed door sort of thing. You've got to communicate with them if you are a leader of a country.
This was more than Mark. This was more than communication. This was way more than communication. And again, the thing is, it's like Kim Jong-un. People always forget that Trump was the first president of the United States to actually cross the North Korean border. I don't know how long. I mean, literally since the Korean War. And they made this little blip about it. Kim Jong-un wouldn't even show his ass to Joe Biden. No joke. He wouldn't even moon Joe Biden. Okay, disrespectfully. He wanted nothing to do with Joe Biden. And yet he still maintained a relationship with Trump. And you notice that Jong-un has become much more tolerable now that Trump's back in office. Under Biden, he was lobbing things at Japan. Trump's back in office, that is pretty much stopped. But on the other side of that too, and I keep saying this, and I've said it from the very beginning, and everybody disagreed with me, but I'm not wrong. There is, and it's not because they're poor or they're losing wars, guys. Both Russia and China have showed inordinate amounts of patience with all the crap that has been going on. I mean, Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico, the cartels, these people that they're supposedly aligned with, and they haven't come really to the defense of any of them. Iran. I could just name the list off.
You have
just
to know
jump
that...
in here, Nancy. Man, you got a big group tonight. Who all do you have?
Yes, I do. Well, let's see. I've got Robert Morningstar just joined us. Good evening, Robert. I just noticed that you pulled in. I've got Raphael. I have Mark Edworthy. I have Roger. I have Jack Carey. I don't know if Jack's back from walking the dogs or not. And David Campione, who's Raphael Martinez, Dave Campione, Mark Edworthy, Roger, and Vicky, of course, Vicky back. These guys are my staples. We are here every week together and kind of in and out of what we're talking about, but every week they're here. Robert, obviously new to the show.
I just wanted to let you know that Naroki 5 is waiting to hear from you because he was asking me if I had a link, so you might want to call him in too.
Mark, that's on you.
Yeah, Mark.
I'll call him in.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, nice
and
to
now
hear you.
Jack is returned.
Nice to hear you all. See
Yep.
you all.
Let me see if I can get him in. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Just checking to make sure we don't go over the limit for the amount of people we have.
I think we're good for now. But and the other thing too is that, again, if you guys notice, and I've been posting it very, very loudly, now a 10th scientist has disappeared and been linked to the rocket program and the nuclear program. And again, I know people say, oh, it's just a coincidence. Nope. Nope, and nope. Nope. Not that big. It was kind of like all the chiropractors that disappeared a few years back. Raphael and I did a show on that. It was something, what were we up to, babe? 115? That disappeared? And they had all worked on the same paper. That was like,
What
But it
about
was
the
coincidental.
microbiologists that were getting knocked off throughout the 1990s? The
Yes.
Marconi, and then the Chinese and the Russians and
Yep.
Americans, where it seemed like there was some kind of covert intelligence war to stop certain microbiologists from pursuing.
I think they were. I think that I was going to say. I think they were working on CRISPR technology, if I remember correctly, and that is gain of function. That is how they get into the mRNA. And literally, yes, you're right. There was a whole list of them that just, and it was always a coincidence, or they committed suicide by stabbing themselves in the back. You know, things like that. Just wonderfully creative at suicide for some reason.
Welcome in, Naroki.
Hey, Naroki, there he is, our Canadian. Hi, Naroki. But yeah, it's been very interesting, and all of this culminates in many ways. And I'm gonna say, guys, you're gonna cringe when I say it. It all culminates to what? What are we looking at? What did we hear Benjamin Netanyahu say a couple weeks ago about what? The coming of the Messiah? What? And what do we know that has been hinted at for how many years? I mean, Serge Manasse was what, 1990s? He went public with Bluebeam? And what was the agenda of Bluebeam? Let's just think about that. What religious context was in the agenda of Bluebeam? That everybody would hear the voice of their God in their head, and the holograms would appear, and they would be so realistic, and everybody would buy into the one world religion, and kumbaya, we would all go under the control of a one world order. And look what's happening. I mean, we've got all these things happening right now. We have literally, I said to somebody the other day, I don't believe for a moment all of these fireballs that are being seen around the country the last month. Not for 1 second do I believe that is a weird meteor shower that nobody has ever identified before. Nor do I believe it's the fact that the planet is tilting differently or moving differently. I 100% believe that is a satellite war. We are seeing satellites dropping from the skies because there's a war going on above us. Whether or not we want to see it, hear it, know about it is inconsequential. That is most likely what is happening because of the way these things are breaking up as they're coming down.
Right.
I mean, again, you can look at meteorites all day long and not see a fireball, like not once, not twice. I think there's been 22 now. 22 fireballs just over the United States.
Just in the
I
last
agree.
month
I
or
believe
so.
that this is part of the hijacking of all the world's end times, the eschaton. It's called eminentizing the eschaton, hurrying up the end of the world. And I believe that they just scripted everything to try to con everyone into believing that this is the will of God, it's written, it can't be changed. And Israel is the forefront because in 1947, Oppenheimer and Einstein wrote a letter to Truman after they were asked how to deal with a race of extraterrestrials that has notified the U.S. government of their intention to settle on planet Earth. They didn't ask for permission. They just announced it. And Einstein and Oppenheimer wrote this 5-page letter detailing all the different possible ways that they could deal with it. And ultimately, they recommended a secret pact with the EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities, keeping the secret of their presence away from the American people and the world public, to provide them with settlement rights, ranging and roaming rights, trading human resources for technology, and the two worst parts, asking the United States government, Truman, to submit to the extraterrestrials for tutelage, to submit to them as their students to learn their science, their technology, their political systems. And the worst part for me is that they, Einstein and Oppenheimer, being Jewish, assumed that these extraterrestrials were the return of the Elohim, their old gods from the Old Testament, and they called for a new covenant with them. And this whole thing about the war in the Middle East and the greater Israel and building the third temple has to do with their belief that they have to prepare the ground in the Middle East, Israel, and surrounding areas to build a temple as the residence, the domicile so that the Elohim can return, live in the temple, and rule the world from Jerusalem. That, in a nutshell, is. And I'm free now to speak about all of this because President Trump issued that executive order to release all UFO files. Well, I've had 30 years of archives, including Blue Book, MJ12, and now I'm releasing it. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And I've notified Coast to Coast. I'm going to be on Coast to Coast on April 30th of all days. Walpurgisnacht. I'm going to be on Coast to Coast to reveal all of this. And one last thing I want to say, it's most important. mRNA technology is AIDS. When Pfizer and Moderna marketed it, 5 days later, they put up animations on how it worked. And I've been working on AIDS, HIV since 1979. I was one of the first people to know about the blight that was happening in New York and in California. And I watched the whole saga. And mRNA is AIDS. AIDS invades the body with a strand of RNA. It replicates itself, it invades the cell, turns into the provirus, DNA, and then attacks the immune system. But when I saw the animations that Moderna and Pfizer, BioNTech put out, I said, my God, mRNA is AIDS, and the only difference is they call it mRNA, messenger RNA, and we don't know what the message is they wrote on it. And that's what's happening. Depopulation and this crazy idea.
Didn't they take out this SV40 and they forgot
Oh,
to put it
yes.
back in? Yeah.
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 Right.
Oh, gee, nice.
Just on the point of the religious aspect, it's no secret that over the last, let's say, 40 odd years, atheism and agnosticism has been growing significantly within the West. So I'm not sure if I buy the entire religious aspect.
Well,
Well,
okay, I
they
guess
didn't check with God either. You know, like God is really going to allow people, humans, to bring on or force this issue of the Mahdi or the other messiahs or whatever. Really? I mean, yeah, you got to think about that.
I
That's
think,
a little crazy.
and I can give it to you from the other aspect because, as you know, Mark, I don't follow Christianity. Organized religions irk the snot out of me. Why? Because it's somebody else's perception and belief system being imposed on you. That is what bothers me. And it's interesting because there's been discussion now about the Ethiopian Bibles being released, the scriptures of the Ethiopians, which are different than the current Christian scriptures as through the Vatican and what has come from the Council of Nicaea. These precede the Council of Nicaea, and they're considered, Christians believe they're incredibly Gnostic. But what these scriptures have in them are not Christ as this benevolent, loving being, but Christ as this energy that's insanely intense, and basically had said God is within all. God is not a person. It's not a man on the planet. It's not a religious belief. It's not a concept. It's not something you're supposed to be following with groups, or it is within you. It is
That's
within
in
you.
the
And
Ethiopian Bible? That's in the
yes,
Ethiopian? That's really
yep.
strange. That's really
And
strange.
it's very interesting because it's something, again, like I told you guys, I moved away from any kind of Christianity, Catholicism, any type of organized belief when I was 12 years old. Why? And I was in Catholic school at the time. Not because I was molested, not because I was a victim. Nope, and nope. It was because I am a precognitive dreamer, and I didn't know why. I do know now it's hereditary. Didn't know that then. But I had a dream, my brother in a car accident. It was really serious. And then it manifested. It happened. And I had tremendous guilt. I was 12 years old. I thought maybe I had caused it by telling him to be careful. So my mother took me to see the priest to confess and see if he could help me in some way. Well, his way of helping was to tell my mother that this was the work of Satan. This was the work of the devil, and that I read way too many fantasy novels, and that I needed to, basically pray and become clean. And no, I knew then something was very, very wrong because I can't control my dream world. I mean, I was like, I didn't ask for this. I know it doesn't. I mean, I know what I saw in my dream, and I can tell you to this day, it's still clear as a bell in my head. Whenever I have a dream like that, it never ever fades. Most people, when you wake up from a dream, when it's, I never call dreams trash because I don't believe they are. I think it is your brain's way of working through certain things. I also believe it's frequency. So I think you're picking up on certain frequencies as you're sleeping. With mine, it just happened to be, for some reason, I'm into the frequency of time and space. And I can have dreams of times before and times after. It just depends, but it's always in twos. Mark knows that. It's always 2 hours, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years. It's never anything but in a two pattern. Feels so damn binary. But again, it's true. It's like, oh my God, it's always twos. But it's something where, again, I don't believe that is something that is a religious gift. I don't believe in the mysticism of it. I think that it's something we're all probably capable of. It's just whether or not our DNA and whether or not our frequencies and the way our brains are working is actually tuned into it. Mine is, again, I think it's genetic. We have accounts all throughout our family Bible of people who could do this. Did I know this at 12 years old? No, I did not. I would love to have known this at 12 years old because it probably would have helped me work with things a lot differently than I ended up doing. But I moved completely away from religion because of what the priest said. He automatically went to, it's evil because I was different. No, that did not work for me, even at 12. I went into, as you guys know, I went into Wicca initially, witchcraft, paganism. But the deeper I got into that, the more I realized, again, there was the touch of man in all of this. There was a touch of power. There was something in there that made me say, no, something's not right with this. Yes, I believe in the energy. 100% believe in energy. I believe in frequency. I 1,000% believe in the goodness of people. I believe in darkness in people. But I also 1,000% believe that all of those things go back to choice. And when you tell somebody else, or when somebody else tells you it's their choice, and if you don't choose their choice, you're evil, I have big problems with that. Because their choice is based on their perceptions and whatever they want you to perceive.
But you didn't choose to have those visions or dreams.
Absolutely not. Nope.
Yeah. So that
I did choose to embrace them, though.
Well,
I did choose
that's okay,
to,
but you didn't bring it about on your own.
No, but like I said, I did choose to not ignore them. I did choose to embrace it, and rather than push it away like my mother did, which resulted in massive headaches, I chose to not do that. And I've learned a lot. But with that, I got to take us out on our first break. When we return, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to pick Robert Morningstar's brain because I think that'll be fun. Hang in there, guys. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
All right, we're on radio break. Welcome in, everybody.
Robert,
it's good to have you in, Naroki and Robert.
Sorry, who's doing the talking right now?
I am.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there's Naroki.
I'm here. I just turn off the camera when I drink or scratch my face.
Sorry, yeah, I recognize. Yes. Oh, David. Hi, David. Sorry, I recognize the voice. I couldn't put a name to it.
Oh, okay. Hi, how you doing?
No, it's not David. So it's who's the one doing the talking? Mark?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, that's Mark.
Hello. I'm pretty much producing and peanut gallery for when I do streams like this. I don't normally get in the show.
Oh, well,
it's not my thing. It's not my thing unless Nancy.
You can't help
know where I'm going with this. Do you know where I'm going with this?
You can't help it. You cannot help it because I have fun on my shows, and I am not afraid to jump off of a cliff and say, you know what, I'm going to land where I'm going to land. Because again, to me, unless we talk about things, unless we have discussions, and it could be a difficult discussion or it could be an easy discussion. But unless the discussions are had, we're a bunch of morons. We are literally a bunch of idiots.
But
you have to be able to communicate.
Did you say
but we
bonds?
still have to be broadcast radio approved.
True. Although I still, you know what, Mark? Like I said, during COVID, I didn't give a flying crud what was approved and what was not.
Yeah,
there was no way I was going to say, go ahead and get that COVID vaccine. There is no way I was going to say, wear a mask, because that's brain surgery. You put a mask over your face when you're not sick, so you're rebreathing all the bad bacteria in your mouth, and it's getting all over your face. That was brilliant. Whoever came up with that idea was brilliant.
Well, I always thought that people who wear masks are usually not good people anyways, because you don't see them going into banks with a mask unless they're trying to get money that they're not allowed.
Well,
that's just me, I went to the bank and asked them, I said, I thought there was a law against this.
Well, you know what? I think my problem is that there were a lot of good people, though, who did, and they were they thought they were helping their neighbors by wearing masks. It's
right.
Yeah. I get it.
I'm going to go into the bank looking like a robber. Oh, yeah, that's great.
Well, I mean, my point of view on this is, if I look somebody with a mask, I just assume that their brain is broken at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the lack of oxygen could do that after 25 minutes in that mask. Yes, the lack of oxygen could definitely cause problems.
Like there's just people whose brains are broken, and that's basically it. They're almost like, to quote one person that I run into, it's like the mask.
No, you're not. No, hold on, hold on.
I like the MAGA hats for the left.
Hold on, Naroki. You're not going to have to seek asylum here in the United States. There are places to rent close to me, but if you need to stay for a little while, a week or two is fine. But more than that, we'll have to work out something. But anyways,
anything. I think if Nancy's on, I keep the whole thing about me going on has just kind of disappeared. Yeah. Well, here's the final deal.
And here's your countdown.
What's going on with what's going on in Canada right now is
3, 2, 1. Sorry to cut you off. You're live and on the radio side right now.
All right. Well,
welcome back. Wait. Hold on, Naroki. Hold on. Welcome back to the Vixen's Vault. Naroki is now going to finish his sentence. Hang in there, folks. Go ahead, Naroki.
All right. So as we were talking when we were on commercial break, I have gone from being on the fence about Alberta separating to we absolutely have to get out of here. Mark Carney has decided, in his infinite wisdom, instead of trying to resolve the situation with Alberta, he has gone and basically intentionally allowed Belton Road, which, by the way, is something I've been currently doing a lot of research on, to the Chinese version of the Monroe Doctrine. He's allowed the Chinese to basically go in there, and he's basically intentionally causing disruption, all sorts of instability in BC. Alberta would be in the same boat had the separation issue happened. And on top of all that, instead of doing something about the Alberta situation, he's been spending all his time trying to bribe other members of other parties to cross the floor and join the Liberal Party, which he has succeeded in doing. He now has a majority government. He's had 5 MPs, 4 Conservatives, and 1 New Democrat cross the floor. Put that into U.S. terms, that would have been the equivalent of Trump bribing back in his first term. It would have been the equivalent of Trump bribing like 5 or 6 Democrats to cross the floor and join the Republican Party.
Well, I think you got to look at it this way, though, dude. Eventually, your population, because you guys don't exactly have calm blood up there. I know everybody thinks you do. I'm like, no, you don't know very many Canadians. Yeah, because you don't.
No.
You've got a lot of really strong, fiery bloodlines up in Canada,
Yeah,
and it's only going to be able to go so far.
well, I mean, what it was basically boiled down to is that, I mean, yeah, Carney secured his, this is from a political point of view, Carney has secured his majority here. The only problem is that in the process of securing his majority, he's virtually guaranteed that there's going to be an independence vote in Alberta in October. And, you know, the polls, and I have to, if I couldn't put up ditto signs, I'm putting up ditto signs right now. The polls are showing that there's less than 50% support for it to occur. The only thing is, though, is that, for instance, if you go to the pro-independence rallies, because I live right across the river from the provincial capitol building here in Edmonton, when I go to those rallies, like the entire front courtyard of the legislature is crammed. When you go to the pro side, you get maybe 20% of the size. And if you go look at the pro separation groups and social media, like the leave side is probably about 5 or 6 times the size of the pro side. And, you know, I've challenged pro Canada people in Alberta to come up with specific reasons why Alberta should stay. And literally everything they answer is either a conspiracy theory or something that Alberta would probably be able to pay for out of its own pocket, because it wouldn't be sending $40 to $60 billion a year to Ottawa to pay for the other provinces.
So, I mean, I'll give you one little bit of advice. Do not, or make sure before you guys vote, because it doesn't matter what the polls say, because it really depends on who's paying the press at that time, because literally your polls, they don't mean anything.
Oh, don't even
Go
get me
check what
started
type
about
of
the polls.
Yeah. Go check what type of voting machines you've got. If you got Dominion, Smartmatic, you're screwed. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Well, that's
You're
funny.
done.
You know, I've got some contacts. I might want to go throw that suggestion out to them. They've used paper ballots here for the most part, like the last few
Good.
elections. So yeah, I don't know how they count them.
Sorry, Neil. I'm thinking Canada, much like much like most Commonwealth countries, is paper-based voting.
Yeah,
Well, we were too
we're
until the hanging chads. The hanging chads killed the paper-based system here in the States.
Yeah, no, I found it rather odd that they were using paper-based voting in Canada and in Britain, and the votes, and they knew who had won the same night, and yet somehow in 2020, like, things dragged out through the entire night.
let's not talk about 2020. You know, we had entire voting precincts disappear for several hours, and then come up with like tens of millions of votes in those couple of hours. So we can't even talk about that.
It's
I found the voting situation, like, I mean, it was a 6-figure lead for Trump. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not Team Trump, but I mean, it was a 6-figure lead for Trump when I turned off the TV to go to bed that night, and I woke up the following morning, and it was like, oh, it's like the vote had completely shifted favor, and it was like, yeah, wow. And
someone captured the switch of 20,000 votes on camera. They were taking a picture of the CNN report, and they captured CNN reversing the Trump vote by 20,000. 20,000 disappeared from Trump, and 20,000 appeared on Biden. Now, that's impossible. Maybe Biden could have made a surge of 20,000, but that would not diminish the Trump tally. The fact is, it was rigged, and there was a satellite link between the United States and the Vatican and Berlin and Spain, and they were...
And Ukraine.
And Ukraine, yes, indeed. So it is rigged. And it's also being exposed a little bit at a time right now. In the United States, they're pulling back the curtain very slowly. And the plan is that they are going to get all of these people the presidential election of 2020.
Oh, I would like to also throw in my 2 cents on the on that whole Hormuz situation. I didn't hear any of you guys mention China at all.
I
Maybe
did.
I
I
missed.
was. I
Okay,
was.
yeah. It
Was.
looked.
Yep.
It's looking very much like, because I mean, and this is something. I mean, I've got a guy who comes on my program all the time, and he's definitely not pro-Trump, and it's like, I mean, I pointed out to him. I'm not going to mention his name, but I pointed out that Iran got much more belligerent when they joined BRICS, right? And yeah, this whole thing.
Well, here's my thought process, Naruki, and bear with me on it, because again, I notice very strange patterns. It's one of my gifts. I can put patterns together that nobody else sees, and I'm like, I don't understand how you don't see it. Okay, what I was saying right before you guys joined was I was making note of the fact that so all the allies of Russia and China, you have got Cuba, you have got Venezuela, you have got the cartels in South America, you have got Iran. You've got some big players that are all experiencing really horrible things right now. And most of them because of Donald Trump. Cuba right now is being strangled. They have nothing. They have no oil. They have no nothing, right? Their people are rising up against them. That's going to be and I've always said it's always going to be from within. You're going to see change from within. Why? Because if people do not initiate the change themselves, they will always be a prisoner of whoever is leading them. And that is a fact. If you don't do it, and you just, it's a vacuum, and you end up with whoever gets in there, and it sucks. It has to be the people. Even with Iran, it has to be the people that get the Khomeinis out permanently. It has to be them. It can't
Well,
be. It cannot be Trump. It cannot be Israel. Israel wants to do it. I mean, Israel's like, oh, let's just violate the ceasefire left and right, and then say, oh, don't hit us back. That's not cool. No, you can't do that. Okay, it's got to be from within. It's got to be from within Iran. But
Well,
China and Russia have sat quietly. Okay, literally, they are the biggest backers, and everybody says it's because they're weak, because they have no money. No, that's a crock of crap, and I can tell you that is a crock of crap. They are
And
not
they're
weak.
also they're not on the cabal system.
Well, yeah, it
banking
looks
system.
like it looks very
None
much
of
like
them
it
were
was a
on that.
China power play to me. From the outset, it looks like it was a bit of a power play by China. It should also be noted that there are other three rather powerful countries that are also part of BRICS. That's India, Brazil, and South Africa. And none of those three countries are in any particular mood to start World War III over.
Not true. Not true. India backed Israel. India told Israel they would fight. Why? Because we're pulling our financing. The states are pulling it. Trump is pulling it. He's not going to be sending them $65 million a month or $1 billion a month, whatever it was. Some ridiculously huge amount of money every month.
Yeah, but
rain or shine.
You're forgetting Europe, and especially Britain involved with India. India's got a very complicated sort of history since the 1947.
Yeah, but the UK is in deep crap over Hormuz, Mark. You guys are in deep doo-doo. You know why? Because Lloyd's, and actually Spain's in deep doo-doo. Because Lloyd's and Santander both were financing Iran behind the sanctions. Okay, so Lloyd's is in deep crap, which is why Trump opened up another form of Lloyd's here in the States. He's telling you, I'm taking all the oil business. It's all coming to the States.
Executive orders. What were they doing?
One of the reasons people don't know.
You can get into Monroe Doctrine for North America as well. One of the biggest beneficiaries, for instance, of the province I live in, separating from Canada, like one of the biggest winners out of that, would be the Trump administration.
Is he still talking about that shit?
I wanted to say something about oil, and Iranian oil in particular with regard to England. England has been supporting and propping up every tyranny in Iran since 1908, because the British Petroleum was established after they found the oil in Bactria in Iran, 1908. And then they installed the first Shah, who decimated the Bactrians so he could seize that
oil field,
the province, and establish BP. And ever since then, England has been running on Iranian oil. And every tyranny, every deposition, deposing the first Shah, installing Mossadegh, deposing Mossadegh, installing the second Shah, deposing the second Shah, installing Ayatollah Khomeini, supporting both Khamenei and Khomeini. Britain has been in there. And so the real war is this financial war between the United States and the Rothschilds and England. And also hamstringing China. Without oil, China cannot invade Taiwan. So that's the big picture as I see it.
If any of you listen to
on the point of, I just want to point out this out, just on the point of Russia and China, just because we, the public, don't hear anything about what Russia and China is doing, doesn't mean that they are not doing anything. What happens behind closed doors, it could be a completely different story.
Mark, Russia could have crushed Ukraine 50 times over again.
Yes.
No joke. Okay, they have the technology, they have the power.
Russia is not
I
on
disagree.
the Cabal
Russia
bank
is military is based upon the old concept of sending troops in.
No, Russia's old military was crap. But Russia, when they went into when the USSR collapsed, Russia went into a real black market mode, which brought about quite a few multimillionaires and close to billionaires in Moscow. Like at one time in like the late 1990s and going into 2000, Moscow actually held more millionaires than anybody else on the planet. You know that, right? A lot of that went into technology. Right now, Russia is #1 in robotics. I don't know if you knew that.
It's not a money issue. It's more of a mentality issue.
They weren't part of the Cabal bank system, Rothschild bank system.
It's not just that, but Ukraine, more than half the people of Ukraine did not want to be under Zelensky. And it's not about a limited amount of people to fight the battle. Russia could have crushed them day one. Yeah. They really could have. And Russia and China actually together went to the UN in 2019, and you can look this up. Russia and China went to the UN in 2019 because they knew there were gain-of-function labs in Ukraine up on the frickin' Russian border. Mm-hmm. And they went there, and they wanted those labs shut down. They wanted them down, and I wouldn't blame it. I said, if Canada put a gain-of-function lab on the U.S. border.
There were 47 labs. There were 47 labs established by the Department of Defense under Obama. They were doing gain-of-function
Russia and China.
Microorganisms and viruses that would specifically attack the Slavic gene. Yes. And that is all true, Vixen, absolutely true. And most people never learned it, and those who did learn it seem to forget it. That was the equivalent.
Well, there's a lot of people that didn't forget it.
Putin, in that situation, was the John F. Kennedy of our time. He was facing a situation that John F. Kennedy faced with Cuba, with atomic missiles, nuclear missiles in Cuba, an existential threat to the United States. Putin was in the same situation, and he had to eradicate that. On top of it, Ukraine, I call the devil's playground. It was a center of money laundering, human trafficking, adrenochrome harvesting, organ harvesting, child trafficking.
All set up by the CIA.
All run by the CIA. And by the way, the CIA is the New World Order. The CIA is not an American organization. That's why it's called Central. NASA is not an American organization. That's why it's called National. But the CIA is the New World Order. And it was established through the deep state. And the crux of the matter is this. H.G. Wells wrote a book called New World Order in 1938-39, and the elite in America and the aristocracy in England embraced the idea of one world government by the elites. World War II came and went, and at the end of it, they said, oh, this is the time to implement it. Let's do it through a new organization, the United Nations. And one of the parties in the United States that was advocating world government was called the World Federalist Party. Another offshoot of it was United World Federalist Party. Instead of United States, United World. They thought that that would appeal to the American public. And the head of that party, who ran for president in 1948, was a man named Cord Meyer. He lost really bad because Americans don't want socialism or communism. But Allen Dulles recruited Cord Meyer into the CIA and made him the director of MK Ultra. Cord Meyer migrated into the CIA with his cadre of political advisors and his political philosophy, which is United World Government. And they are the New World Order. That is their real name. And that's what they call themselves. So,
and that's why they invented the Hegelian dialectic. That is why, and I always say the Mossad, the CIA, one and the same. Do not ever, ever mistake that. They are one and the same. They always have been. They always will be. One does the dirty work. The other one covers it. And that is how it's worked with them. Yep.
Hand in glove. The CIA, James Jesus Angleton, and remarkably, a British trader named Kim Philby, who was part of MI6, James Jesus Angleton and Kim Philby went to Israel in 47, 48. They organized the Mossad. Kim Philby was exposed in the 1960s. He fled to the Soviet Union. He'd been a mole all that time. And James Jesus Angleton adopted Mossad as a subdirectory, a subdesk of the CIA, and used Mossad to conduct political and economic assassinations all across Europe and the United States. If you really want to know who the men in black are, just take a look at a synagogue on Saturday. We all,
you want to get into Kim Philby. And
the men in black are Mossad.
Kim Philby was deaf, but Kim Philby had a few issues, man. Like he was, my understanding was that he had one really effective mission. Other than that, he was actually almost a bit of a detriment to the KGB. From what
but let's be fair, Naroki. Look at Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, tell me that these people make rash decisions when it comes to their leadership or the people that they adore going down the line. Benjamin Netanyahu has literally, since Rabin, has done nothing but make Israelis look like liars. And I say this not with any hesitation. And I'm not anti-Semitic.
Managed to stay in power for as long as he has.
They're trying to overthrow him, and I keep saying that. Don't hate the Jewish people, okay? They are just victims, just as we were, to a deep state. Okay, they are doing what they think they need to do to protect their livelihood, their families, their children. But they have bad leadership.
They're under a spell. It's Stockholm Syndrome.
Yep.
The Stockholm Syndrome, the victim starts to sympathize with the victimizer and turns to them as their source of survival and sustenance. That's what I tell all my Jewish friends. You know, you people are thralls. You've been enslaved by an ideology. And and I have to say, in New York in particular, Jewish rabbis in Williamsburg and surrounding areas are coming out and saying, look, in the 1920s, there was the foremost rabbi whose books are in every synagogue, Hotsim Chaim, wrote that Zionism is Amalek, or the Amalekites.
Yes. Wow.
And that they're coming out and saying it. Look, you got to wake up, because he is destroying the Jewish people. But let me tell you this. Rothschild's entire plan was to gather up the Jews in one place so that he could wipe them out. 12 years ago,
I believe that.
12 years ago, I saw an interview. I read an interview that appeared in a British magazine. It was scanned and copied and put it on the internet. I read it. And the interviewer asked Rothschild, are you Jewish? And Rothschild said, I am an Esauan Jew. And
Yep.
my eyes bugged out. I said,
Esau.
what? An Esauan Jew?
Esau?
I've
Yep.
never seen, there is no tribe of Esau, but there is. Esau is the brother of Jacob, who got gypped
Yep.
by
Right.
Jacob, who
Yep.
became Israel. And I realized, oh my God, he's telling. And then Esau is the grandfather of the Amalekites. And then
Right.
Yahweh
Yes.
says, wipe them off the face of the earth. So
Exactly.
I believe that Rothschild was letting out that he is the archenemy of
Yes.
of the Hebrews, and that he's out to get the family inheritance back by wiping them out. So gathering them all in one place so he could destroy them. That's in the Rothschild plot since the very beginning. Esau
That's
and
diabolical. Diabolical.
That goes.
It's
It goes
terrible.
to my. It's something I've said on the show many, many times, though, and I've made the point that you're not okay. The current Zionist Jews, okay, over 90% of the population in Israel right now that are Jewish, who claim to be the chosen ones, they are not. They come from a lineage that is outside the line of Jake or Isaac. I'm like, it wasn't Abraham. It was not Abraham that is in the Bible as being the inherited bloodline. It is Isaac. The sons of Isaac shall inherit my kingdom. It was Isaac.
It was
I was like,
Jacob.
these are not the bloodline of Isaac. And when they did genetic blood tests back in 2012, before it was banned, because the Israeli government banned it after these
That's
blood
right.
tests and said you can't do it unless you go through a government approved company.
Yeah.
But the test showed that they did not have any bloodline, any inherited blood, and that the Gazans, the Lebanese, the Syrians, the Egyptians had way more blood
Right.
that went back to the lines of Isaac. Because it
Right.
was not in the Bible, it was not a religious inheritance. And I keep saying that. Show me in the
May I
Bible where it
add one
says you
thing?
have to be a Jew or a believer. It says the sons of Isaac.
Right.
It does
May
not
I add
say
one
you
more
had
thing?
to.
The misinterpretation, the twisting of the word in the Bible. They're claiming, that the Israelis have two stripes on their flag representing the Euphrates and the Nile, and claiming that they were given all that land between the two rivers, and people have been buying that lie for the longest time. The land that was given to or promised to the descendants of Isaac was a land between the two rivers, but everyone's forgetting that the
It's a
two
different
rivers
covenant.
are two of four in Genesis. And the two of the four are the Tigris and the Euphrates,
Euphrates. Yeah.
and the other ones are
Yep.
the lost Pishon River and the Gaon River. But that's what they were talking about. And the promise of the land was given to Abraham and Isaac when they were living in Iraq. So Iraq is the land that was promised them, not Palestine.
Well,
Not so.
that promise was to the covenant was to Abraham, as far as your eye can see. But the ones to Israel, where they go in from Egypt, that's a different covenant, and
All right.
that's
With
smaller.
hold on to that thought, Vicky, because I got to take us out to our long break. Hang in there, guys. When we return, we're going to actually continue this conversation because it's incredibly interesting, and you guys are learning. You're learning something, and not just from me this time, or Mark, or or Rafi or Roger. Now you have another person who's joined who's on that same page. Hang in there, guys. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Hey guys, I have to hang up here. I actually have to get set up for my show tonight. So
Talk to you later, Naroki. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, take care,
by the way,
Naroki.
Nancy, we'll
Good
have to
having
set
you in.
something- I'll have to set up something with you to come on your show at some point. You fell off the map for a few months there, but I never actually forgot about it. So
It's okay. I'm here. Like I said, I'm always here, and the show's always here every Wednesday night. You're welcome to join whenever you want, or come in as a highlight guest. Just let me know when you're ready, and we'll get it
All
done.
right.
And I'll go, "Kudu, Canada Corner."
Well, here's the thing: we could maybe do it because I'm day 4 of 4, but I get off finish work Wednesday morning. We could possibly do it next week.
Sounds great to me. I'm down with it. Like
All
I
right,
said,
well,
everybody,
all right, I'll let you know.
everybody likes
All right.
to hear from
We're going to lose
Mark.
this room, everybody,
Okay.
but Robert, you're not used to this, but kind of with
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Jaffe. What I'm going to do
Night,
is
Noroki.
I'm going to hang this call up. Everybody hang up, and I'm going to call everybody back right on this particular group. Okay?
Okay.
So you'll
All
get
right.
another call. Okay? And just join when I get the room set back up again. Okay?
Very good. I'll be here.
All right. I'm gonna take us out right now and switch us over so that we can start getting that all set up. All right. I'll see you on the other side, folks. That was part 1 of Vixen's Vault. Coming up, more to there's Robert.
I
There
hope
we go.
Robert was on his mic. Yeah, I was gonna say I hope it's on his mic when we went off.
Yeah, he
Yep, yep.
he shut it. He shut down his video feed, so I don't know what
Yep, yep.
happened.
Well, he does that when he takes and drinks coffee or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. It's nice to see somebody else who's been watching this for so long and sees exactly what I'm seeing in many ways. It's like, oh wow,
Yeah,
you're
Nancy,
seeing a
we
real plan.
need to get him to talk about those missing people and what he's
Yeah,
been doing
cool.
with his remote viewing.
Absolutely, would love
Yeah.
that. Actually, because I've told you many times, I think remote viewing is just a disciplined way of doing what I do when I'm dreaming.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
just, it's more disciplined.
Whether we should do it or not. I know that Amir Safar.
Hey, Robert,
do you
welcome
know
back.
him?
I'm back. Yes.
Let's see. Who
There he
who
is.
dropped? Oh, Jack dropped off and Raph too. Now that Naroki's out and doing his thing, we should
There's
be able
Raph.
to get everybody full scale. Hey, Raph, welcome back.
Robert, I do want to talk
Robert.
about your remote viewing.
Be happy
Because
to.
I was just saying to Mark, I think remote viewing is exactly what I do when I'm dreaming. It's just more disciplined. Like I have no control over these dreams. I don't know when I'm going to have one. I don't know what it's going to be about. But I think
Excuse me.
it's a form of it.
Jackson? I'm glad you asked me that because I'm recovering from one of the most intense experiences of my life, and perhaps the whole reason why I embarked in parapsychology. Last week, I covered the trip around the moon on my show live, and on the night of April 6th, April 7th, I went to sleep, and I had this vision of being on an aircraft carrier and seeing 3 UFOs emerge out of the water. I was on the deck and I was looking at the bow, or what I thought was the bow, and 3 UFOs came out of the water. One was a white conical craft with diagonal striations, and it was spilling water. All of this water was spraying out of it. It was spinning. The second one, the middle one, was a beautiful lenticular shaped UFO, brown in color, and the third one was a triangle like this. So it was the conical one, the elliptical one, and this navy blue triangle, which I assumed was a reverse engineered U.S. Navy UFO. I was thrilled, and I was on the deck, and I was the LSO, the landing signal officer, And I was hailing them and saying, come, come. And I was guiding them. They were moving slowly over the deck to come down. And then I woke. And I was absolutely thrilled. I called several other friends that are also psychic and contactees and experts in UFOs. And I told them I had the most marvelous UFO vision that I've ever had. I've had in years and years and years. And then for the next 3 days, I prepared for the landing. And on April 9th and 10th, I stayed up all night and I was reviewing photograph after photograph, video after video. And at about 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, I saw a single photograph of the heat shield before it was attached. And it was brown and it was elliptical. And I realized, oh my God, I'm being shown that the heat shield might fall off Orion. And fortunately,
Oh, wow.
and just fortunately, this is the way God works. In January, I was contacted by a scientist who works for NASA, who has a new unified field theory. He's Chinese. His name is Dr. Yu. And I did an interview with him in February, and we really hit it off. Because I read, write, and speak Chinese. I've studied Tai Chi for 54 years, and we did a beautiful interview on unified field theory with Dr. John Brandenburg, who's a plasma physicist. So we really bonded, and we've stayed in touch. I got up, I went to write emails immediately when I realized what my vision was revealing. 4:44, I looked at the clock here, 4:44, my internet went out. From 4:44 until 10:30 in the morning. And I called my friend Barbara Honegger, is a very well-known psychic and actually a researcher of really high quality, high grade and intelligence. And I told her what I realized. And between the two of us, we put our minds together. I contacted Dr. Yu. Who is Dr. Yu? He is the manager of the Orion environmental subsystems, in charge of keeping the astronauts alive in the space capsule. So I called him up, and he was amazed that I was calling. I said, his name is Wei Ping. Wei Ping, I have to talk to you. I had this vision, I had this dream. It represents that the heat shield might come off. I've read that NASA...
We have about 30 seconds till we get back on air, guys.
Okay, well, basically, I induced him, I convinced him to change the angle to make it steeper so that the atmosphere would press the heat shield into, because they were going to come in at a shallower angle. And I was afraid it would bend. The plasma would burn the lid or the heat shield off, and we succeeded.
And here's your countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're back live and on the radio side right now.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Vixen's Vault. Today's date is April the 15th, 2026. It is 10:04 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. I'd like to welcome everybody back to the show, and I'm actually going to ask Robert Morningstar to repeat what he was discussing with me as we were on break. I had told him that when we came back, I would like to discuss remote viewing, his remote viewing, probably because, as you all know, those of you who listen to the show, Larry, I know you're listening, you guys know for years I've told you all about my visions, my dreams. Some of you have experienced the manifestation with me, but I always compared it to remote viewing because I really, honest to God, believe that's what I'm doing in some weird way. It's natural for me, but it only occurs in a dream state. Once in a while, I'll get a flash vision while I'm awake. They're always accurate, but they don't hold to the twos. The dreams always hold to the rule of 2, I call it. 2 days, 2 hours, 2 minutes, 2 years, 2 months. It's always in a 2 pattern. With that, Robert, I'm going to ask you to repeat, if you could. I know it's a lot, but if you could repeat what you were talking about.
Well, before I relate that, my most recent experience with remote viewing, I would like to remind everyone that tonight, April 15th, is the night that the Titanic went down.
Yeah.
And there were many people who had premonitory dreams and warnings. Some listened and they survived, and others didn't, and survived in lifeboats. and others didn't. But what I was relating was the most powerful remote viewing experience of recent years. I had a dream on the night of April 6th and 7th after the Orion went around the moon that I was on an aircraft carrier. I was the landing signal officer, and I saw 3 UFOs come out of the water, all 3 simultaneously, like this, 1, 2, 3, horizontally. The right one was a white, conical-shaped UFO that had diagonal striations, and it was spinning, and water was just pouring and spilling out of it. The second one was a beautiful elliptical brown-colored UFO in the center, and the third one was a navy blue triangle that represented to me a U.S. Navy reverse-engineered triangle UFO, which I know we have, and we have had it for many years. So I was signaling and hailing them to come aboard, and they slowly moved over and were about to descend on the deck. And I woke up totally thrilled because this was so vivid, so lifelike, that I really was standing on the deck of the carrier. So I called some of my other friends, and I told all my friends, as a matter of fact. I was so excited by the vision that I told all my friends, my closest friends, about it, including 2 psychics, Barbara Honegger, who she worked in the Ronald Reagan White House, and she was there when Reagan was shot. And on that day, both of us experienced miracles. So I told her, and I told my friend Dr. Bruce Cornett, who's a geologist, PhD, very advanced researcher in UFOs and a contactee, has had a lot of alien experiences. So I told them all about it. On the night of 9th and 10th April, I stayed up all night in anticipation of the return and the re-entry of Orion. And I spent all night reviewing videos, photographs from the moon, accounts, biographies for articles that I'm writing. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, I came across a single photograph of the heat shield in the laboratory before it was attached to Orion. And I realized, oh my God, that's the middle UFO that I saw. The elliptical brown-colored UFO, beautifully shaped, that was the middle image. And I go, oh my God, the dream was showing me that the heat shield could separate from Orion. And that's why the Orion capsule, which was coming up out of the water, spinning, was spilling water out in every direction, like a turbine spinning and just spitting out like a fan. So I was convinced that I finally knew what the dream or the vision was giving me. Before I give you that, I knew Edgar Mitchell, astronaut Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14, founder of the Noetics Institute. I knew him personally. We were friends for the last few years of his life. And before the mission took off, I invoked the spirit of Edgar Mitchell to be their guardian angel. And I asked, and I wrote, these were emails that I wrote, I put his picture, and I asked Edgar Mitchell to be the guide for a safe journey to the moon and a safe return. And Edgar Mitchell, while he was on Apollo 14, conducted parapsychology experiments secretly from the moon, receiving and sending images. They kept that secret for about 2 years, 3 years afterwards. And when it came out in Look magazine, Edgar Mitchell elevated the field of parapsychology from the ridicule and the fringe science skepticism that was typical, and he gave us a lot of legitimacy. And so I believe that I got this message from a dead astronaut. And so I called NASA at 11 in the morning, and I spoke to the man in charge of the environmental systems in Orion. And I had met him in January and February. I had interviewed him, and we'd become very, very good friends because he happens to be Chinese, a PhD in physics and an engineer. And we really bonded. So I called him out of the blue on the busiest day probably of his life. And I said to him, I have to talk to you. Because I had sent him the vision as well, and sent him the montages. I was taking pictures that looked like what I saw and composing the image. And I said, listen, I have to talk to you. I know what my vision represents. It represents the heat shield separating. And he said, oh, Robert, you're right. And what I was right about was NASA, in order to reduce the G-forces and the buffeting and what they thought the damage to the heat shield and coming in, were changing the angle of reentry to a shallower angle. But when I read that, I know how plasma works, especially under high velocity, and I saw the plasma curling under the capsule, burning the heat shield and burning the Orion. And I said, you've got to make it steeper. You've got to make that angle steeper, not the shallower angle. A steeper angle will make for a more uniform pressure and even burn and prevent the capsule from detaching. And he said, you're right. So then Barbara Honegger called me. I had left her a message at 7 in the morning, and she sent me an article she'd written probably 20 years ago about how changing the angle of reentry saved Apollo 11, because they were going to come in at an angle that was going to land them in the middle of a tropical storm that was forming into a hurricane. So a captain in the United States Navy named Sam Houston happened to just go check the weather with a secret program the Air Force was running called Corona. Nobody was supposed to know about it, but he had clearance. And when he called this Captain Brandley, said, thank God you called me. You have to meet me. I have to show you something. So he showed him the weather map, and Apollo 11 was going to come down in the middle of a tropical storm with high seas. You got to change the trajectory. So they did, and Apollo 11 landed 225 miles beyond the original landing spot, and they were able to change it, and Apollo was a success. They saved them. So she sent me the article she wrote. I sent it to Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu went to the NASA directors, and less than a minute before reentry, they initiated a fourth burn to change the angle. And Orion landed 1 minute earlier, which is what would happen. If the angle is steepened, you come down faster and you come down sooner. If the angle is increased, you travel farther and land later. So I'm happy to share this with you. I thank God it happened. And the thing is, when people receive these premonitions, remote viewing, lucid dreams, they're often afraid to voice them. They're often afraid to or don't know how to interpret them. But thank God that I've been at this. I had it, this gift is in my family, it is in the bloodline, and I had it since I was a child. And so that's why I pursued parapsychology. And I ask everyone to pay attention to your dreams, because if you don't, you're missing half your life. So thank you for letting me tell you this story, because it is a miracle. And those miracles are gifted to us. The Godhead speaks to us in dreams. So you have to familiarize yourself in dream interpretation. I mean, it goes back to Joseph and the coat of many colors, in the Bible. So I always knew it. I always knew it was true, because like you, I was raised Catholic, and then I left the church because the Vatican II Council was the takeover of the Catholic Church by satanic influences. Freemasonry, Satanism took over the Catholic Church, and that's why I left. But I like to say, when I left, I took the baby Jesus, the Blessed Virgin, Michael the Archangel God, and Raphael the Archangel with me. The schematic of Catholicism, the world view, the universal view of the hierarchy, that's true. All the dogma is unnecessary. We all have personal relationship with God. I was fortunate to find the source in 1975. I was taken back to the beginning of time, and I saw the creation, and I was given this mission. My soul was taken out of my body, And the Holy Spirit or God said, come, Robert, you're going to be my witness. I'm going to show you why things are the way they are. And what I experienced was my consciousness being taken out of my body and dropped into the ocean of consciousness, into the Godhead. Like taking a drop of water with an eyedropper and dropping the drop into the Atlantic Ocean. But the drop of water was allowed to remember and understand. And I've known that and kept that secret for 55 years, 51 years, 56 years now. But I share it with you because our consciousness is a spark of the Godhead. And our souls are plasma that's encased in a physical body. And the purpose of being on this planet is learning how to navigate while here in the body through lucid dreaming, remote viewing. We learn to map out the afterlife and navigate in the afterlife and communicate with our loved ones. And I've been touched by ghosts, and every encounter with a ghost is a download of information, of knowledge. And it is the love that we bear for each other that lives on. So there you have it. And thank you,
You know,
for
I agree with you so much on. I can't even begin to tell you how many things we connect in that you would never know. It's funny because Edgar Mitchell. As soon as you said that, I know Mark was thinking over there. Nancy's jaw just hit the ground. Literally, I was supposed to interview Edgar Mitchell. He passed away right before the interview, but I had spoken to him and loved him. I mean, Wilbur Allen actually introduced him to me.
Oh, Wilbur's a great friend of mine. Oh my goodness, and God bless him. And he's still.
In fact, Wilbur was here. Wilbur was down in Florida, and we hung out together, had lunch, had a great time. But I mean, that you snapped me forward when you said that, because I was like, I was supposed to interview Edgar. It was like one of the biggest disappointments of my life. I was happy for Edgar because he's finally out of the shell, but I was like, oh God, what timing. But then you're talking about NASA and different projects. When my father was a DoD contractor, he's retired. He's still alive, but he was a DoD contractor. He worked with and for NASA in many capacities. He built jet simulators for the Air Force, but he also worked on the microchips for the shuttle program. He also worked on the Apollo program in its very beginning stages. So a lot I know about the Corona program only because of my father.
Oh.
And it's crazy to hear you talk about some of these things, because I'm like, he sounds like my father. He sounds like my dad. Oh my God.
That's obviously we have a psychic connection. I want to add a couple of things about Edgar Mitchell. I met him personally in New York. He gave a lecture about his trip to the moon. I always wanted to talk to him about the cosmic consciousness experience that he had had. So I went there early and I sat in the second row in the Explorers Club in New York. He gave this wonderful lecture, and questions and answer time came, and I raised my hand, and he was being very affable, philosophical, professorial, and genteel. And he said, "What's your question?" And I said, "Captain Mitchell, I feel privileged to be here with one of the 6 sets of eyeballs that actually saw the moon. Would you describe for me the internal structure of the crater Euclid?" And when I said that, he went, "No!" And he slapped his hands at his side. He clicked his heels. He looked at me in a look that Navy people would say meant, "Lieutenant Whale shit, you are way out of line, and you are to cease this line of questioning immediately." And he couldn't control himself. And 200 people in the audience jumped. Wow, what did he say? And then he caught himself, and he thought, and he said to me these words: "Well, the mission profile didn't call for that, so I don't have to answer that question." And everyone was taken aback. Now, I was a bit pissed, to be honest with you, by his treatment of me. I don't like being treated or looked at like Lieutenant Whale shit. And I said, damn it, he owes us this. We paid for this. He has that knowledge, and I want to know. So one of the things that I mentioned about contact with spirits or even with people in the past in my life, psychometry is another field of parapsychology. Touching something that belonged to somebody, touching an artifact from some event.
Yep.
People take and receive energy, but touching someone else is also psychometric. So I had shaken hands with people in the past, and after shaking hands with them, a lucid dream would reveal to me information that they remembered. I met Nijinsky's daughter. People who don't know, Nijinsky 110 years ago was the greatest dancer in the world. He was the Michael Jackson of the time, and he rediscovered perfect human body movement. So I studied him for 10 years. I'd never had a dream about him, and I met his daughter. I shook hands with her, and for 3 nights I dreamed about Nijinsky. But my perspective was, the first 2 nights I was a baby, a child crawling under a table, seeing somebody dancing around and telling me, this is the move you have to get, crossing the feet, and telling me you have to play all night. The third night, I was out of my body. My body was in bed with my paramour, and I saw the specter of the rose walk by me, go up to my bed, look at me. He lifted himself up, rose over my bed, and sank into my body, saying that he was becoming a walk-in and that we would cohabitate while we did this work together. So I knew I had that skill, and I never, ever in my life intentionally invaded anybody else. But when Edgar Mitchell refused to answer that question, I put myself as the last person on the line. And when it came to meet him, I thanked him and I shook hands with him, and I intentionally directed my chi to go down my meridians into my hand, up his arm, and I didn't let go of his hand. This is really funny. You know how long it takes to shake a hand, like a couple of seconds you shake. So there's 200 people are there. I'm the last guy online, so I held his hand. When he tried to pull it away, I went with it and held on to it. When he pushed it, so we got into this little handshaking he didn't want to say let go of my hand, and I wasn't going to let go. So I did that with the intention of tapping his memory banks. And then I let go finally. And we were friendly, and we agreed to keep in contact and communications. So I went home, and I was thrilled. There, I met Edgar Mitchell. I'd shaken hands with him. I went into the bathroom to relieve myself, and I closed my eyes, and I had the most vivid vision of descending over the moon, looking down into the crater Euclid at an oblique angle, and I saw what he had seen. The last thing I'll say is we became friends. We corresponded from 2004 through till the time he passed away, and I broke his mind control. A lot of people don't know that the astronauts were asked to volunteer for an MK Ultra program to erase their memories so that they could not be forced to speak. They were afraid that Soviets or the Chinese would kidnap an astronaut, like in the Manchurian Candidate movie, and that they, through mind control, would force them to reveal secrets. So they said to them, we have this technology, it involves drugs and hypnosis and post-hypnotic suggestion, and they'll never be able to break you. So I found a photograph of a UFO that Edgar Mitchell had taken on the moon, and he didn't remember taking it. And I sent it to him. And he was on the phone when I sent it. We were telephone and messenger, and I hit send. I heard bing, and I heard him say, well, I'll be damned, there is something there. And the next day he was on UK radio, and he admitted UFOs were real, that NASA was covering them up, and that he had been born and raised in Roswell, and that he knew about the Roswell crash since he was 13, which was what inspired him to become an aviator, to join the Navy and become an astronaut.
All right, with that, I got to stop because I got to take us out to break before Mark kills me. Hang in there, guys. We will return in just a few minutes, and we will continue this conversation yet again. We'll be right back, guys.
Great, great, great. Thanks, Robert.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to.
Oh, Robert, that was awesome. I took a moment. I dropped a dream I had in 2016, and everybody else in here has read this, but it is a prophetic dream. But it is something I always say that it's like a novel where it's piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. And when I dream and I write it down, because I always write down, okay, what I'll call precognitive dreams are different than a normal dream. They're very, I always say that the visual aspect of it, it's like all my senses are on crack when I'm dreaming like that. Everything is brighter, sense are stronger.
Right.
My eyesight is incredible. My hearing is insane. And when I write it down, it comes out almost like poetry. And I can't help that. I can't control that. And I always say to people, I think in lyrics sometimes, like I think in rhythm. And it's probably what makes me very good with computers. It's because it's like the binary is like a rhythm to me. So it works for me. But again, if you read what I wrote, sometimes I reread it, I'm thinking, holy crap, man. Yeah, because I remember what I saw in the dream, and I know what's happened, and I know what's yet to come. And I know how it ends.
Yes.
And that's what everybody says to me, you never ever lose faith. You always say, I trust the plan. I really do. Mm-hmm. And it's got nothing to do with Q in so much as it has to do with this dream.
Right.
I was like, because I had the dream before Q ever came into the picture.
Oh, I see.
And but it followed the dream in many ways. I was like, but again, I had it on November the 11th, which is weird. I didn't even think about it. And when I wrote it down, it was 11:11 a.m. And that is actually in my computer file under properties. Didn't know this for a couple of years. And I was rereading it one day, and I looked down, I went, oh, there's my twos. 11:11
right.
is 2 plus, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 1 is 2, and then 11:11 a.m. I wrote it down, 1 plus 1 is 2, 1 plus 1 is 2. And now I just said to myself, this is like one of the only dreams that is not in a binary sequence, though, as to when it manifests. Because it keeps, like, parts of it are manifesting at all different times.
Right.
Even the collapse of the Roman Catholic Church, which is at the end, the pontiff calls upon his children with no uniforms. Mm-hmm. It's there, and we're seeing that now. We're seeing the conflict with the church and how that's going to end, because it's not going to end well for the church, I can tell you that.
Right.
But you mentioned Elohim, which also snapped me, because the very last line in that dream is Elohim in its purest form.
Yes. Yes.
And it's funny because not too many people know what Elohim was, know that Elohim is a plural. They don't know that, but I know you do.
Yes. Yes.
So
and the twisting of it is another. I'd love to know more about that dream or read it. If you could send it to me, I would like to.
It's actually in the chat room. Is he in the chat room, Mark?
Yeah, if he's here, he can also see the chat.
Oh, the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dropped it in there for you because I'm like,
We got a little bit more than a minute to go before we come back from break, but.
Oh, this is very important. I mean, this is, well, what it reveals is that science has been in a conspiracy to suppress consciousness. Aliens, UFOs, interdimensional beings, they have suppressed that because the admission of the alien presence.
Okay. We got about 30 seconds.
The interaction with humans and their engineering of humanity would collapse a cornerstone of science, meaning Darwinian theory that we evolved from monkeys.
Okay, and here is your countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you are back live and on the radio side right now.
Right on time, Mark. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Welcome back to the Vixen's Vault. I am your hostess, Nancy Planetta, or the Wiccan Vixen, however you want to call me, or whatever you know me by. Again, many of my listeners go way back to my times with the show Ghost Hunters. When I owned the Ghost Hunters chat, we were thousands of people on the IRC just having a good time and talking around, and some of you guys have actually been listening to me for that long. That's kind of scary. That scares me because I realize exactly how old I am, because you're talking that's over 20 years ago. But welcome back to the show. Again, our guest this evening, we have Mr. Robert Morningstar. We actually have a whole cavalcade of people here, but Robert's been just so interesting, relaying his experiences and some of, we were discussing remote viewing in the last, segment of the show, and Robert was going into his particular experience and his experience with Edgar Mitchell. And I'm enthralled because it's something that hits close to home for me, as you all well know. I do want to mention, we do have one listener out there, Larry Hersman. Hello, Larry. And some of you guys are familiar on my panel. Mark, I know you know Larry. Rafi knows Larry. But Larry has been, literally, I've known him since the IRC days of Ghost Hunters chat, and I'd like to thank him for being so faithful and listening. But Larry has also been there when I have had dreams, and I have told certain members in my chat, usually my moderators, and would say, give it 2 days, give it 2 hours, whatever, it's going to manifest. And he's been there when that's happened. One of those, and I've mentioned it on the show, was the Northern Illinois shooting, which that was literally a 2-day on the dot to the hour, hit. And it was exactly what I saw in the dream. The only thing I didn't know in the dream was the name of the university. I knew where it was. I could describe the building it happened in. I could describe the victims because I was actually standing next to one of them in the dream. And I could smell their blood, which it sticks to me to this day. And guys, you got to remember, I was an EMT, so I am used to dealing with things that most people could not stomach. But for some reason, the smell of in that dream, to this day, I can still smell it. And the gunpowder, I can smell the gunpowder residue, the smell of the weapon when it fired. But that's why I always tell people, I know some people say, what a cool thing. Isn't that cool? And I'm like, no, it's really not. Because I'm not sure why. And that's what I want to ask you, Robert. That's kind of my segue to a question for you. People who do this naturally, it's genetic with you. I know for sure it's genetic with me. Mm-hmm. Why? I don't understand why. Because like what I'm shown in my dreams, there's nothing I can really do. We both know there's nothing you can really do to interfere with a dream. There's no way to change the course. It's just either you end up with a guilt because you feel like you caused it, or it's not effective. It's kind of like certain things are set in stone. And I can tell you with my dreams, I always say usually they're world events, volcanic eruptions, things to that nature, big events. And if I was to call and say, listen, in a pattern of 2, this is going to occur. So you need to go stop that before it can happen. What would happen. I would end up getting locked up. Mm-hmm. And the fun and crazy part about this is I told you my dad was DOD, and my father is very well aware of the gifts in the lineage of my family. And he was always on top of me when I was younger to not talk about these things. And my husband, Raphael, by the way, is my husband. He swears to this day, he believes my father was actually CIA. Mm-hmm. But it's almost like he was trying to protect me. Mm-hmm. And now after meeting so many people who were victims of the programs of the government, I have to almost agree with him. Because
it was with Corona. It's very likely that he was.
Yeah, because he was really very because we had a lot of major military figures over for dinner at my house. I mean, my dad was working mainly out of MacDill Air Force Base for a while, and he knew General Schwarzkopf. So it was always, don't even cross that threshold of conversation.
Right.
Even with UFOs, like it was something he just did not want any part of discussion. He would fall back on faith, on his Catholic faith. No, we are the only intelligent beings in the universe. God created us, and very strong. I mean, and my dad is not a loud person, so it was very unusual for him to be passionate. He was an engineer. Passion was not his thing.
That's the point I was making during the break about suppression of consciousness, locking down those faculties to sustain science. Science has established itself as a religion, with the scientists as the high priests of this ideology. And the moment that we admit the existence of the alien, the extraterrestrial presence, or interdimensionality and communications with the afterlife. I've got a long history of that. The science, the paradigm of science, materialistic, atheistic science, comes crashing down. But now we're at that stage where it has to change. A new paradigm is being brought forth, and that's why the UFO issue and the JFK issue is so important, and they have to open up both files. And the reason they can't is that if you open up the JFK assassination files completely, you find out that JFK was killed because he wanted to reveal the alien presence. And if you open up the UFO files, it reveals that JFK was killed because of that, because he knew about Roswell 2 days, 3 days after it happened. His name is in Army intelligence files, that Central Intelligence Group, before it became CIA. CIG was the Army intelligence. They had found out that he had been briefed on a flight between Boston and Washington by a staff member of the Secretary of the Air Force, whose name was Stuart Symington, who was the uncle of Five Symington, the governor of Arizona, during the Phoenix Lights. So the cover-up involves families and lineages. But I believe that these are gifts of the Holy Spirit, as they are called them in Christianity, but that the church and science has been intentionally suppressing them, denying them, stigmatizing people who have the gift. And remote viewing has saved my life and other people's lives many times. It saved my life in 2012, I experienced a car accident that had involved many cars and dead people on the highway. And you were talking about hearing and smelling. These are really unique aspects. Most dreams, people are looking at a movie, they don't hear much, they don't smell much. But when you have those with that kind of intensity, there's a message, an olfactory message, an auditory message. And in this dream, I saw havoc on the highway, pieces of cars and people dying, and moans and sounds of the grinding of tow trucks lifting up pieces of cars. And I realized in the dream, God is showing me something. He's saying to me, Robert, you have to go through this. We can't change it. You have to go through this, but you can change something to mitigate it so these people don't die. And I did do that. I had a beautiful Firebird, white Firebird, my favorite car, most beautiful one I ever had. And I drove it everywhere. And I had to go to a Christmas party on the solstice in Brooklyn. And what I saw was that a white car had caused it. So I said, well, it's not going to be my white car. So I borrowed a van, a big Pontiac van. I borrowed it. And as a result of that, I was able to control the forces of the crash. So that became a buffer between all the cars, and no one was killed. People were seriously injured. And then when it happened, bang, it was like this, and literally bang. I turned to hold my friend in her seat, and I put my hand out like that. When I put my hand out, there was an explosion. The airbag hit me in the side of the face. And then I looked and I smelled the gunpowder. Is everybody all right? Everybody was all right. And this is what I said to myself. Oh, I was in this dream on Tuesday night. Everybody's all right. Okay. And just like that, no shock, no fear, nothing. I whipped out my cell phone. I got out, started directing traffic, called 911, and went to the person who had been the worst injured, and I made sure he was all right. And half an hour later, I was in my bed. He hailed a cab, took off, came home, and it was like a bad dream. I was lying in my bed a half hour after this catastrophic accident, thanking God that he had shown me the way four nights before. Monday, I dreamed it. Friday, it happened. So you have to explore this realm because it really is the most important thing in life, to learn to navigate and be ready so that you're not disoriented when you die. You will know where you are, and you'll know how to navigate it, and you'll know how to communicate with loved ones. And one more thing, I had a dream in Hamburg in 1998. I went to dinner with this charming lady, and she offered to drive us home in her car. She came, and it was a white van with a unique side panel, and that was that. I went home in Hamburg, where I was staying, and I had this dream that I saw the car on fire. And the next day I called my friend who'd introduced us. I said, listen, I have to talk to Maria. Can you arrange something with him? And he called her up. He said, my friend Robert wants to meet you. He says it's important. So I said to her, listen, I saw your car last night. I had this dream, and the car was in flames. And she said to me, I'm going to take it to my mechanic. Took it to the mechanic, and it was a Japanese, one of those little original narrow Japanese vans. And she used to pick up her children and her children's friends after school in that van. And she put it aside, went to the mechanic, and the mechanic said to her, why did you bring in the car? She said, my friend had a dream. And he said, you're really lucky you didn't get on the road again. That transmission was really ready to fall out. And you might have caught fire.
Wow.
So that's why I believe in dreams. And I think that they're really important. That's why I'm a Jungian in my psychology, but I also studied Gestalt psychology, which is a very important field. And it's the field of psychology to understand how a human being conceives a thought by organizing information, first visually, and then the rest of the senses. So I encourage people to study your dreams and pay attention to them. My
Can I
life,
ask you a question?
future has been shown to me. 2 years, for example, as you said, 2 years before I discovered the doctoring of the Zapruder film, I was in Switzerland, and I met the angel of history. And the angel of history showed me how we had gone down the wrong track of history and were leading humanity to a dead end. And then I was in a theater where I saw this thing called The Film That Fooled the World. And everyone in the world was locked up in this theater and forced to watch that film 24/7. 2 years later, I discovered the doctoring of the Zapruder film, the greatest act of mind control, mass mind control the world has ever seen. Back to you.
I have a question to ask you. With the type of psychology that you were just discussing, I find it interesting because I know everybody says sight is the first sense that allows the brain to actually register the thought processes and allow you to think through. But I beg to differ because I always feel I am a lot of people tell me I'm strongly empathic, ridiculously strong. And I actually believe it's what I feel. I always say that. I don't get my impressions from people based off what they look like.
Right.
It's based off what I feel. when I'm in their presence, and some people I can't even go into the same room with them. I'll be very honest. It's so toxic. I'm like, I call them thunderstorms. You can't be near thunderstorms because they're chaos.
Yes. Yes.
But I always felt that is what guided me, not sight, but feeling. And I always said to people, I feel like the ability to be empathic or empathy, we all are to a degree. It's an animalistic trait in us. It's a fight or flight response.
Yes.
But in many ways, I think that can be me to be ridiculously situationally aware and have to be aware of any dangers. And then, you read body cues, you do different things that alert you. And I think I was doing it subconsciously, honestly. But you can, like I said, you can feel people. You can read right through their intent. It's much more trustworthy than sight. I will tell you that. My empathic abilities, I would trust them 1,000,000% over my visual.
Absolutely.
Any day.
Yep. The first sense actually is the olfactory sense. Before our eyes focus, the sense of smell is, and I can tell you this because I awoke in my mother's womb. I was not a premature baby. I was an overmature baby. I was 2 weeks late. And I remember being awakened in my mother's womb by the sound of music, classical music being played, and hearing the sounds of her heartbeat and burps and gurgles and a bright red light, a brilliant red light. And years later, I asked my mother, I know you listen to music and, I could hear your heartbeat, but I don't know about the red light. She said, well, Robert, when I was pregnant, I used to go to the beach almost daily, and I used to lift my skirt or my dress up and expose my belly to the sun. And that's probably the red light that you saw. So if we are nurtured, and the other thing is this, and I will be very frank, one of the things that suppresses these faculties and that is used to suppress consciousness is early childhood trauma. And one of the worst forms of early childhood trauma is circumcision. And that is something that I saw, and I will never, ever attend that religious ceremony that Jewish families practice called the bris. I went and I saw a 10-day-old child totally in love with life and mom and everything. And when the mohel did the dirty deed, the child screamed, and I'm telepathic, and the scream of the child said, "Why are you doing this to me?" And I saw a 10-day-old baby turn into an 84-year-old man with wrinkles on every aspect, his skin, his face, his feet, his cringe. And that is mutilation. And I believe that is one of the ways that these old cults are brutalizing children, imposing a trauma that creates psychic illness and psychological blocks that last for a very long time. I fortunately was saved by the good graces of a certain Dr. Lacayo. My mother, when I was born, said to him, "Do you think we should circumcise him?" And my mother said, he paused for a moment, he looked at me in the cradle, he thought, and he said, "No, let's not do that." But my first childhood trauma, as long as I'm revealing myself to you, my first childhood trauma occurred when I was 3.5 or 4 years old. I was sitting on a swing, a bench swing for several people, adjacent to a window in my grandfather's house on the porch. And I was with these older boys, maybe 10 years old, 8 years old, and we were talking, telling stories. And I felt something. The window onto my left was open. It was a darkened room. The room was in darkness, but opposite the window was a doorway to a hallway that was illuminated. And what attracted my attention was my peripheral vision picked up something black within the black. So the two sides were in darkness. I saw something black within the black, and I looked, and I saw a figure walk across out of the blackness, out of the darkness, into the doorway in a silhouette, and it was not human. It was hunching over, it had no neck, it was skulking, and then it turned and looked at me directly in the eyes. And when I saw that look, I screamed bloody murder. And then the creature walked across into the darkness of the other room. My mother, my grandfather, my grandmother came. My father was a merchant marine captain. He wasn't home, but they came, they rushed in. I said, there's something in the room, something in the room. And they ran in there and they said, well, there's nothing here. And my baby brain said, I saw it. There was something there. He probably went through the floor and he's under the house. That's 3.5, 4 years old, because I knew what I had seen. And I saw that creature once again, probably 39 years later, 40 years later, in 1978. I saw that creature again, and it was an extraterrestrial that I stopped from taking my girlfriend from my bedside. And then she woke up the next day and she was in shock. And she told me, I woke up last night and there was a little demon at the foot of the bed. And she smacked me really hard. You wouldn't wake up. You wouldn't wake up. And I was about to say, no, Chris, I woke up. I drove that thing away. And when I said, no, Chris, it had a white light on the right side of my head, not my forehead, the right side. White light. And a voice said, don't tell her. If you tell her, she'll lose her mind. She'll go crazy. Don't tell her. And I zipped up. And it took 24 years for me to recall that and access it and realize that that had been an extraterrestrial encounter. And later on, I met a German psychic who was my house guest. I walked in and she went into shock. And I saw her eyes and I said, Brigitte, what's happening? What's going on? And she says, she was shaking. She said, I see two people next to you. They're always with you. The one on your right, she's so beautiful. She's like an angel. But the one on your left is short and ugly, and it's not human. It's extraterrestrial. So we have a guardian angel and a guardian demon. And we have to navigate our lives wrestling with one and listening to the other. So that's my psychological profile of myself and my worldview that I share with you, because this is very important. The paradigm shift is here. That's why they're releasing the UFO files, and that's why J.D. Vance came out 2 weeks ago and he says, I'm definitely incredibly interested in UFOs, but I think that they are demons. Have truths, you know? They're interdimensional. And we have to deal with this new universe that's being opened up. The suppression of consciousness is being lifted because we need a higher consciousness to enter this new world.
I agree, but with that, I gotta close the show, Robert. But I do want you to tell our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they find you?
Well, you can find me on Revolution Radio on Sundays and Mondays. Sundays at 3, Studio A. Mondays at 10 p.m. Eastern, Studio B. I'm also on Substack. The Morning Star Report is an e-zine on Substack. It's my name, robertmorningstar.substack.com. And you can, and my email is robert.morningstar@gmail.com. So you're free to contact me. Thank you very much.
And let them know when you're going to be on Coast to Coast Radio again.
Coast to Coast, April 30th. I will be on at 1 p.m. Eastern on May 1st. But it's the April 30th show. They start at 10 o'clock in California. So that's how they name it. But Walpurgisnacht.
There you go. All right, guys. With that, we are out of here for the week. We'll talk to you again next Wednesday night on the Vixen's Vault, so long as we're all here, which I'm pretty sure we're going to be. Just saying. Hang in there, guys. We'll talk to you next week. We're out of here.
Thanks, Robert. Please
Oh,
come
thank you.
back. This has
I,
been a
I
really,
will.
really
I
good
shall.
show.
I'll be back. Thank you very much. It really was a privilege and a pleasure to meet all of you and Vixen in particular, to have that dialogue. And I've downloaded her vision and I put it in my archives to study it. So hello,
Yeah, it's
Nancy, Roger, Mark,
Uh,
good to see you. Arpad,
Appreciate it.
David,
Appreciate everybody
Right.
tonight. It's been a great
thank you very much.
show. All the shows tonight were great. I have to get you in with Jack sometime too.
oh
Okay.
yeah, Jack would love him. Jack will you'll
Yeah.
love Jack. and Jack will love you.
That's my dolphin's name, by the way.
Jack Carey?
No, Jack Kennedy.
But Jack's a merman, so
My dolphin.
No, he's not.
yes, he
Jack
is.
Kennedy.
Jack is a
Jack is
merman.
my now Jack knows I had my dream about the damn dog man. And showing me the military aspects of the damn dog
Okay,
man. I was
we're
like,
gonna
what
get
the
cut
hell?
off, folks. So in case we do,
Listen,
I am going to host us out to the Great Conspiracy. All right, and we will be back. I'll be back Sunday with Censorship Sucks. Wednesday again with all three shows that you heard tonight, and music in between.
That was a good show.
And we're
All right, so let me get this back on the regular stream. We are on 24/7 live with Roger Hanson, and this is going to be the end of my personal or my other regular broadcast for the week on the Draegus production. So hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. Feel free to go over and check out Draegus production. You can find them on Kick, Twitch, Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube. And with that, I guess I can end the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed.